So good evening, everyone. Today we all are here to discuss about, you know, the future is infection prevention. And that was the theme of this year's Infection Prevention Week. 2022 was the future is infection prevention. When I read the title itself, it set me thinking that why did they say the future is infection prevention? Not about infection prevention is the future. There is a difference in both the sentences. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to explain that why infection prevention is our future. We have experts with us today who are going to help us to think through in the next 3 hours what are we. Before I invite all our esteemed speakers, and it gives me immense pleasure also to thank Nurse India, a company which is on their journey to create the largest platform for Indian nurses. And I warmly welcome Indra and Prita to this session. And thank you for supporting this event. And I'll be calling upon you in a minute. So thanks to Nurse India. And let me welcome all of you with a thought that we all are connected on this platform, and we all are connected wherever that we are working for the purpose of patient safety. The very essence of us being here is only filled when our care will result in the safest care possible. There is a saying that to err is human because we are human beings, but being careless and shortcuts is definitely not what we are here for. There are many reasons for many things that happen. I can only request all of you to reflect on one statement. I think that Alicia mentioned. Remember the purpose of everything that we are doing. And the first story of the central line, so many years she's having central line. You can see how confidently she's managing a central line. She also mentioned about that. Nurses and doctors watch outside the room, then they touch the door handle, then they touch something else, and then they touch my center. So no wonder that we all say that hand hygiene is the cornerstone of infection prevention. And we all think, oh, this is very, very basic. It's very, very basic, but it takes many, many lives. So thank you everyone for joining us to reflect on this very important topic. And let me welcome all our guests one by one. And I will quickly introduce them, then I will stop sharing the screen, then I'm going to call out to each one of them. We have Dr. Sharmila Sen Gupta, Associate Professor Consultant of Microbiology from Amrita Hospital, Faridabad, its largest hospital in the country. Along with her, we have Dr. Anita, Director Lab Medicine from Fortis Hospital, Mohali. We also have Ms. Ajita Nair, Managing Director, Healbase from Kerala. We have Ms. Indrani Chakrabarti, founder of Nurse India, along with Chaudhary from Nurse India. And then I am very proud to announce 3 of my trained infection prevention control nurses. I'm very honored to be having them here. That is Gaurav, Ashwati, and Rajeshwari. I'm sure all of you must have seen the agenda. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And I would like all of you to meet our guests. May I request all of you to keep your, video off and audio off so that the screen is visible for the speakers, So when I call upon, then, we'll be able to see the speaker better. So first of all, may I Dr. Sharmila Sen Gupta, whom I have known for many years. And all the people who are here in the podium, they are all very closely connected to me. And I feel that they all are passionate about patient safety and infection prevention. So, Dr. Sharmila, can I ask you to say a few words about yourself to the group sitting here so that they know you a little bit more better rather than me talking about you?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I'm trying to see where you are. Yes, I can see you also.
Yeah, thank you, Thankam. You are a great friend, and I'm really honored that you called me in this forum to talk about infection prevention, patient safety, antibiotic safety, etc. I am a trained microbiologist. That is, I've done my clinical microbiology and have been practicing in various hospitals, both in South and South and north of the country. And throughout my work, I've made many friends. Thankam, Anita, Ajita, they are all a part of that group. And just to say in short is that for me as a microbiologist, I find infection prevention and control is one of the most important areas in a hospital setup. And I think the COVID has definitely helped us to understand this better. But somehow we have still not got into that mindset. And so we all together, all of us, should keep striving for this infection prevention and patient safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sharmila. Let me quickly move on to Dr. Anita Sharma, with whom I started my career in India way back in 2001. And we did a lot of things. We learned a lot of things together. So, Dr. Anita, few words from you about yourself.
Yeah. So thank you, Thankam, and absolutely delighted to be here again with all of you. As Dr. Shamla did say that we go back a long time, and I think this session is extremely important in the way that it is highlighting the importance of infection preventionists. So I'm also a trained microbiologist by profession and have been working in the field of infection prevention control since 2005 now. I also did my a diploma in infection control from London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and since then I've really kind of gotten excited about this particular aspect of care. And as all of you mentioned, that there's no going away from it. The time is absolutely critical that we put infection prevention and control right at the clinical forefront. It has to be given its due importance, and all of you there who are attending this program here, you are the change agent. You can make a difference. Absolutely, committed and passion is required for all of us to work together to make sure that all the care that we provide is safe.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Anita. Thank you very much. And let me quickly move to my friend, colleague, Ajita, to say a few words about herself. And all of them are here because they care about the cause that we are going to discuss. Ajita, are you there?
Yes. Thank you, Thankam, and so excited to share the screen with Dr. Sharmila and Dr. Anita and the young nurses who have joined us. And it's certainly a pleasure to connect, as well as we are living in a time where threats around us is much more than ever before. Rather, we all have met many years ago, and things have become more serious and more difficult to handle, right? In hospitals than, though at that time, not that we were less serious about it or, did not do enough. That's not the case, but things have changed a lot, and people's perspectives have changed, as well as, the threats in the environment have changed. Somehow, I feel more threatened to be in a hospital than 10 years ago. Not only because of infection issues, but so many issues rather, all related to patient safety. So it's like going into a busy road. You are not too sure whether you will return home. Every day when I get into my car, this thought somehow strikes me that, am I going to return today evening? I don't know actually. So going to a hospital is also somewhat the same. Going to a hospital, we are not too sure in what shape anyone will return home. So that gives us more sense of responsibility and accountability. I'm not too sure whether that happens in that way. We in this short time available with us, we'll discuss a few of those things probably. And the idea is to ignite the minds around us, I feel, so that alone you can't win this battle. But if our army expands, there is some hope. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajita. Thank you very much. I think it goes without saying, all of us are here to find more momentum for the cause that we all stand for. So let me now move on quickly to Gaurav. Can you come in and say a few words about yourself? Gaurav is a infection prevention control nurse, had been one for quite some time. Gaurav, your video should be on.
Yeah, it is on. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Gaurav. I have a total 15 years of experience in nursing, and I'm in infection control as a senior infection control in Manipal Hospital since 6 years. And I'm delighted to be a part of this webinar with experts and our panelists. And thank you so much, ma'am, for inviting me for to speak on a very important aspect, that is the future is infection prevention, and like infection control is everyone's responsibility. So it should be the message should be carried to all the young nurses and all the nurses. So thank you so much for inviting me once again.
Thank you, Gaurav. The three young IPCNs are here because we are talking about the future is infection prevention. The future is in your hands. So welcome, Gaurav, and let me move on to Ashwati. Ashwati, can you come in and say a few words about yourself? Ashwati? Ashwati, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Hello, good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon all. I'm happy to be here. First of all, thank you to Thangam ma'am to giving an opportunity to become part of this. As Ajita ma'am and Gaurav said, it's not it's a single man's job to have a control on this infection control. So it's the control. It's the word itself says like it's a team. Like everybody has to be work, and this is the time where we can pass the message to the everybody. Is like what is the important or what how we can have a control on this. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ashwati. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Let's move on to Raji.
Ma'am, namaste.
Can you keep the other system muted? You have two systems, so there is a lot of echo coming in. Yeah.
Is it okay, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Myself, Rajeshwari. I'm IPC.
Still it is echoing, sorry. You have to mute the other system, please. Yeah. Now you are muted. Your system is muted. You put the other one muted, other system.
Namaste, ma'am.
Yeah, now it's better. Yeah.
Namaste all. I am associated with Apollo family for past 18 years. I'm really very glad in this position to talk in front of you as a senior level. I'm really thank Thangam ma'am. She is my mentor because previously we used to write ICN. Now also if I'm writing IPCN, they used to ask me, IPCN, what is that meeting of IPCN, all those things. So I explained the way the madam educated me. It's a great opportunity for me to deliver the message like a role of future infection prevention controllers. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Raji. Thank you. I'm very happy about the three young IPCNs who are here, along with stalwarts from microbiology and senior nurse leader like Ajita. Thank you everyone for being here. And now it gives me great pleasure to invite people who are not from a hospital or a healthcare professional, but they are both passionate about nursing. And they are, on their journey to create the largest nursing platform, one-stop platform. And now I got connected with them, and they are I'm kind of partnering with them because I believe in their cause. So I'm going to invite Indrani and Preeta to quickly introduce yourself, and then we begin with our proceedings. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Thankam, and I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think Preeta and my co-founder Preeta and I are delighted to be part of this. And like Thankam mentioned, with such an august gathering of clinicians, it's the pleasures double. My background is I've been in HR for over 2 decades, of which nearly 10 years, of course, has been spent in healthcare in HR. And that's how, Thankam and I also therefore go back about a decade or so, almost a decade. And I couldn't believe, Thankam, the other day that it's almost 10 years now that I know you. In my CHRO hat, when I was wearing that, I think 70% of my time used to be spent with the nursing team, addressing various issues, partnering them, trying to solve problems with them. And if you're working in any hospital, and, I think it's needless to say 70-80% of your time, of your resources, of your energy is going to be spent with nursing, which is the largest population. And that's been my interaction with nursing. So when I turned entrepreneur, I think there were many areas which we thought, technology could address. And when I was a practicing CHRO, I did not see too much use of technology. And I thought the time was ripe for a tech-enabled platform to really, integrate the entire nursing population in not just in India, but abroad as well. And that's where really, that's where the idea took birth. The first person my co-founder and I reached to was Thankam, because quite simply, Nurse India would not even take shape without Thankam's advice, collaboration, partnership. She's really been the rock solid pillar behind this. And Thankam, we are honored to be part of, to be able to support this session today. We are looking forward to really hearing from the experts here. And I think that's the mission of Nurse India as well, where we really want to unite people using a tech-enabled platform where nurses can really actualize, nurses across levels can actualize the fact that they have a choice to work and a voice to lead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Indrani, and a warm welcome to this session. Preeta, a quick word from you.
Thank you, Thankam. Thanks, everybody, and good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here. I think of all the people here today, I probably know the least about healthcare and nursing, because I don't even have a healthcare background. So my background is in analytics and technology. And I used to be an analytics entrepreneur and, had my own firm, etc. And then when, Indrani and I were talking about this idea, and then Thankam came on board, it was really my first, I think, getting inside the mind of what happens, with nurses, getting really to know the world of nurses. I think before this, the only nurse I'd even heard of was Florence Nightingale. And I have to tell you that along with being a pioneer in the nursing area, she is also a pioneer in my field, which is statistics. She has tremendous contributions to the world of applied statistics. So there's that connection. But like Indrani said, the mission of Nurse India really is, I think, unless one really enters this area and works closely or talks to nurses, one doesn't really appreciate the immense contribution that nurses make to our everyday world. And what we want to do is just provide that voice, because I think that voice is really important. So that's what we want to do, and just really happy to be here. Thank you so much, Thankam, for having us here.
Thank you, Preeta. Once again, a very warm welcome to all our guests today. And I'm very happy to see that there are 80 plus passionate people sitting here to listen. And I think this discussion will not end today. I think it has been going on forever. And one shout out to Preeta. It is nice to hear from a non-nursing person. The only person she knew was Florence Nightingale because of her statistics. Because in some of my trainings, I tell the nurses, don't forget all the, the charts, the Paretos, this, that, everything, she had done it so many years ago and she was a nurse. So we should be proud of that. Now, with that, without any delay, let me invite Dr. Sharmila to do her first session. what happens when there are no antibiotics? I mean, that's a very interesting question, right? When I read more about it, when I think more about it, I actually shudder thinking that, I imagine a movie that is going to be created, that what happens when there is no more antibiotics. Yeah. Dr. Sharmila, eagerly waiting to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Thankam. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Thankam has given me a topic which I really don't know the answer to it. When there will be no antibiotics is something which I don't have an answer to, because we still have a few ones left, which the doctors are struggling with in dealing with infection. But when there will be none, well, I shudder to think of that day. So, it's not moving.
Ma'am, can you click on the arrow or maybe on the left-hand side? When if you go, there will be a cursor for forward and backward.
Yeah, it's not moving. Oh.
Maybe you can stop sharing and share once again. It might work.
Okay. I'll do that. Yeah, thank you. It started moving. So I would say, before we really go into a situation where there will be no antibiotics, we should think why we started this journey. Why we took the wrong route and are going towards a wrong destination. So I would call it the silent pandemic of antimicrobial resistance. As healthcare workers, as doctors and nurses, we know that the antibiotic pipeline is dwindling. So I would just like to take my talk through, can you imagine a world when you could die just by taking a tooth out, or fear your life because a common infection like tonsillitis or food poisoning would have no treatment? Well, it sounds like as if we've gone back to the dark ages when people, the lifespan of people would be between 30 to 40 years, and we would just vanish because of some small microorganism getting into our body. So according to the lead researchers, it is said that this future could be quite near. And according to WHO, it is predicted that by 2050, 10 million people across the world would be dying of infections, which is much more than people dying of cancer, people dying of accidents, or people dying in war. So this is really scary, and we are failing to recognize the problem now. The action should have been yesterday, but at least we should move towards it today. There was this interesting book written by H.G. Wells, The War of the Worlds, where he talks about bacteria and antibiotic resistance, which is very interesting, where he says that the story goes like the aliens from Mars invaded the world, and they were taking over because they were more intelligent and they had more power. But then, because of the microorganisms which were there in this world, which they had no immunity to, finally took them over and we were safe. But now I think it's going to be a reverse story. So a little bit about the history of antibiotics. Antibiotics or antibacterials are a type of agent which is used for treatment of prevention of bacterial infection. The broad definition of antimicrobials would also include chemicals and other drugs which would take care of parasitic infection or viral infection or fungal infection. But antibiotics in particular, it talks about only bacterial infections. It all started in 1640. Why is it jumping? 1640, when John Parkinson of London, apothecary, and the king's herbalist advises that molds could have a curative effect when applied for infections. There are, then in 1870, Sir John Scott Burton Sanderson also observed that culture fluids covered with mold would not produce bacteria. And of course, we have father of microbiology, as is said in 1877, where Louis Pasteur observed that cultures of anthrax bacilli, when contaminated with molds or fungus, inhibited, and bacteria could and kill the other bacteria. Now, I would go to 1909 when Paul Ehrlich discovered acetylphenamine, and it was the first synthetic drug which was used for treatment of syphilis. But as we all know, that Sir Alexander Fleming in 1928, in 1928 discovered penicillin. It was an discovery, as it is written in his biography, that when I woke up just after dawn on September 28, 1928, I certainly didn't plan to revolutionize all medicine by discovering the world's first antibiotic or bacteria killer. But I suppose that was exactly what I did. He had grown coccus on a plate, and he went on a holiday, came back, and when he walked into his lab, he found that a mold, penicillium, growing on those plates, and wherever this mold grew, the bacteria wouldn't brew. So it was an accidental discovery, but it definitely changed the world. And of course, the first time antibiotics was created and used was by Howard Florey, and Fleming, Florey, and Chain. They received the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1945. And to behold that Fleming in his days had predicted that the thoughtless person playing with penicillin treatment is morally responsible for the death of the man who succumbs to infection with penicillin-resistant organisms. So even when he discovered penicillin, he knew that there would be a time when penicillin would become, the bacteria would become resistant to this antibiotic, and we never listened to him anyway. Well, as Winston Churchill had said, the biggest fallacy of man is that we never learn from our mistakes or history. What is the history of antibiotics? What happened? This was this poster. Thanks to penicillin, he will come home. It was a poster during the Second World War, when penicillin was being used for treatments, and they had hopes that this would help in bringing their boys, their husbands, their fathers or sons home, because they will get well. The wounds will heal and they will not die. And look at now. This is a picture of an ICU. I can share a small story. A few days back, we had this young kid who was a patient of AML, acute myeloid leukemia. He was doing well. He was in remission, but he developed a small abscess, and what happened was that it grew two bugs, Pseudomonas and Acinetobacter, and we had no antibiotic to which it was responding. All the antibiotics we had on our cards, it was resistant to. And we couldn't, from the small little abscess or a pustule, it became an abscess. Then it went into the bloodstream. And within a span of about a week, we lost the 16-year-old boy. So from thanks to penicillin, he will come home. Now we have come to a state where once the infection starts in the hospital, we know that there may not be a homecoming. So it's a very sad state of affair. Now, where is antibiotics used? We have found that in most of the prescription, doctor's prescription of antibiotics, 30 to 65% of this prescription are for viral infections. Now, we all know, as doctors, as nurses, that antibiotics do not work on viruses. It's only meant for bacterial infection. But why are we still prescribing, knowing it's a viral infection, why are we still prescribing antibiotics? Again, if you look into the bigger picture, where we find that what is the consumption of antibiotics across the community? 50% of it is used in agriculture. Can you believe antibiotics like colistin, which is used in agriculture to grow crops? We eat those food products and slowly it starts accumulating in our body, and the normal resident flora start changing, start becoming resistant, and they transmit these resistance to other bugs when they get into our body. 30% is used in food animals, like poultry and fisheries. And only 20% is for human consumption, that is through prescription or, of course, in India, we still use antibiotics without prescription, knowing very well that it should not be used, but only 20% of it is used in human consumption, like taking tablets and capsules. WHO came up with these very interesting facts, which it says that antimicrobial resistance is a global health and development problem. It has declared AMR, that is antimicrobial resistance, as one of the top 10 threats facing human race. Misuse and overuse are the main drivers. So its misuse is when it's used where it is not needed, when it is used in food production and poultry and fisheries and agriculture. Overuse, of course, is when doctors unnecessarily prescribe antibiotics, and also the public, the common people, even us in healthcare. I have seen so many of us knowing very little about antibiotics, we start prescribing antibiotics to our own self, to our family and friends, without understanding whether we need it or not. Again, lack of clean water. I think these are more important issues to be resolved than prescribing antibiotics. That is lack of clean water, sanitation, and inadequate infection prevention and control usually promote the antimicrobial resistance in pathogens. Poor access to quality, affordable medicines, vaccines, diagnostics, knowledge and awareness, lack of enforcement and legislation. These are some of the issues which are driving this antimicrobial resistance. What is the cost of AMR? It could cause death, just like as I was telling you about this young boy who died a few days ago. It can cause disability, that is prolonged illness, increase in the length of stay in the hospital, increase the use of expensive medicines, and cause financial challenges not only to the patient, to the family, to the community, and also to the hospital. Mind you, prescribing more antibiotics to the patient in the hospital doesn't make the hospital earn more. It actually adds to the burden of the hospital resources. Without effective antimicrobials, the success of modern medicine will be significantly reduced, especially in without antibiotics. How do we go in for major surgeries? How do cancer patients get their chemotherapies? How do we have transplant surgeries and critically ill patients with sepsis and multi-organ failure? And these could be, we ourselves or any of our close ones, loved ones. We have created monsters. As you can see, that we have created monsters. The MRSA, the methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, which causes deadly, it is deadly. It is seen in pneumonia, in sepsis, in wound infections. The carbapenem resistance Enterobacterialis, which is again resistant to most antibiotics. This young boy, I told you, had grown a Klebsiella, which was resistant to all available antibiotics. Pseudomonas and Pseudomonas aeruginosa, which causes hospital infections. And some strains are almost resistant to all antibiotics available. The other dangerous bug which might, settle down in our hospital is Acinetobacter baumannii. They are mostly nosocomial, that is hospital associated, very difficult, and they are usually multi-drug resistant. How does drug resistance develop? Now, what happens when we have this attack of pathogens? Now, many of them are sensitive to the available antibiotics. They're within this cluster, one or two which carry drug resistance. Now, if we constantly barge with antibiotics, what happens is the ones which are sensitive will die off. The ones which are resistant still remain, and they keep multiplying and cause the burden of drug-resistant pathogens within our body. The antibiotics kill the bacteria causing the illness as well as the good bacteria. You know, when the good bacteria is the resident bacteria, the normal bacteria of the gut flora or the skin, it also kills that bacteria, which is again a protective layer in our body. So we kill the protection which the normal resident bacterial flora provide. And then what we do is we allow the drug-resistant bacteria are now allowed to grow and take over. And not only that, they not only strengthen themselves, but they also transmit this drug resistance to other bacteria in the vicinity. Is there a solution to this crisis? There isn't a solution if you're not unwilling to change at this point of time. But remember that not only as healthcare workers, but every person in the society, the community, there is some role and responsibility for everyone. It is the responsibility of the government, the industry, of course, the healthcare workers, the food producers, and also the common public. What can the government do? For, you know, if they are willing to change, they can create regulations regarding use of antimicrobials. If you know that the drug controller of India has come up with this idea that all antibiotics will be restricted in use, and the packet would have a red line showing that it's only available with prescription. But is it really true? Is it taking any effect? I don't think so. The community has to become aware that taking of antibiotics without a prescription, without a diagnostic test, is not going to help us or help anybody in the present or in the future. There has to be more research and development of new antimicrobials. You know, after the late 1980s, we just had one new antibiotic, linezolid, and whatever new has come are just you know, flipping of the coin in a different way. So it's only modification of whatever was there. So that is one thing we need to do, invest in research so that more new antimicrobials are available in the market. And we should have non-pharmaceutical options. Now, what are non-pharmaceutical options? During the COVID times, you have seen that the behavior change of behavior, practicing cough etiquette, practicing hand washing, doing infection, you know, bringing in infection prevention control practices, having a stewardship with antibiotics. These are all non-pharmacological methods, which can also vaccination, you know, vaccination or immunization to certain infections is also it's I wouldn't say non-pharmacological, but definitely not an antibiotic option for preventing infections. Then we can concentrate on organic farming, alternate methods of production of you know, healthy animals for food, then clean water, sanitation, practicing hand hygiene, cough etiquette. These are very, you know, people wouldn't really think these are important, but these will, if we want to change, these are the things with practice which will bring about change, and maybe we can save our antibiotics for our future generations. Now, how we can help? The thing is, this I'm concentrating, since we are mostly the nursing faculty and nursing community which is participating in this talk. So I'm going to talk about how you can help in you know, in reducing the progress of antimicrobial resistance. Please remember, the days are gone when we can achieve anything in silos. For everything, we have to be team player. So please be a part of the team. And what is a nurse's contribution to antimicrobial resistance response? You have numerous functions. I think I always quote one of our senior colleagues, nephrologist clinician, who had said that, you can run the best hospital with B-class doctors, but we always need A-class nurses. I think I never forget that quote of his. He was just discussing, but what he said, I think that is the most important thing which I have learned over healthcare, because nurses are people who are with the patient maximally most of their time, not doctors, not other technicians, therapists, or any other allied health people are with the patient. So for spending the time with patients, for so much of time with patients, what we can do, we can contribute in infection prevention and control. We can do direct patient care, vaccination. We can collaborate with other professionals in healthcare, contribute in antimicrobial stewardship, and of course, in improving healthcare safety and patient safety. What is the goal? The goal of stewardship, why in the hospital we must practice antimicrobial stewardship. So it's to maximize the benefit of antibiotic treatment while minimizing both to individuals and minimizing, negative effects to both individuals and communities. How to start? Whenever we are trying to bring in new ideas or talking about changing something, the first thing we think is how to start. Now, in some hospitals, it is already a set culture, how to change that. And in some hospitals which is starting, like our hospital, which has just started, how to bring in a system where we would follow infection prevention programs and rules and regulations, bring about antibiotic stewardship, and how do we contribute? The first thing is education and engagement. We have to be aware of what we want to do. The competencies and awareness about antimicrobial resistance was, there are some studies, and it has been seen, the international consensus is seen that infection prevention and control is somewhere the nursing has a huge contribution in changing antimicrobials and, in how we deal with our antimicrobials and antimicrobial resistance, diagnosing infection and use of antibiotics, prescribing antibiotics, person-centered care, and interprofessional collaborative practice. These are a few areas where the nursing community can make a huge difference by contributing to it. Educate yourself. I would say that learn about the antibiotics. Don't just administer the antibiotics because the doctor has written and gone. Learn about it. Be a part of the team. Be aware of the best practices, even if you are not the prescriber. It is important to understand the appropriate use of antibiotics in order to educate and be an advocate for your patient. The thing is that if you understand why antibiotics are used, why antimicrobials are used, why it is being used in a particular patient of yours, you will be an advocate to see that it is prescribed appropriately, withdrawn when the time is over, and monitor the side effects or whatever, whether the patient is improving, not improving, everything you can understand and monitor if you are aware about the antibiotics. Know why the antibiotics are given and what is the condition for which it is being treated. Whether the dose is correct, the duration, the indication, you have to understand, and you will be in a better position to monitor whether these antibiotics are appropriate or not. The doctor just writes the prescription, goes away. You order the medication, it comes from the pharmacy, you read up when to give, what to give, how to give. So if you have a knowledge of that, you are immensely contributing to stewardship and bringing down the antimicrobial resistance and being a bigger, being a huge part of the infection prevention and safety of the patient. There was this interesting study which was done in Brazil, where they did an electronic survey where about 76 nurses from different private hospitals, about 4 Brazilian hospital states were kind of contacted, and they contributed to the study. The response rate was 89%. It was found that only few nurses answered that they participate in the antimicrobial stewardship, which is a very sad thing, because nurses do have a lot of contribution in antimicrobial stewardship program. I think there is a lack of awareness, and they found out that there was basically a lack of awareness about antimicrobial resistance, and probably the nurses are not kind of engaged, where in the stewardship programs are not told about the antibiotics, whereas they are the ones who are the closest to the patient who has been prescribed an antibiotic. So how do we identify and prioritize these gaps? So we have to first find out that what is a nurse's attribution regarding the management of antimicrobials. How should the planning and implementations of the nurse's activity in antimicrobial management occur, and how they can drive and help in reducing the antimicrobial resistance and help in infection prevention and control and patient safety. So maybe a solution is having workshops on the role of nursing, like one this Thankam has arranged. I think this is a very important issue which has been taken up by Thankam, and all of you are participating in it. It itself shows how interested you are to know about it. So I would definitely encourage all of you to learn a little bit about antibiotics. Pester your doctor when he prescribes certain antibiotics for your patient. Don't consider them, no matter what the hospital says, the patient is yours. I mean, it's collectively yours along with doctors and other healthcare professionals. So find out why it has been prescribed, what could be the side effects, how you should monitor, when it should be given, when it should be stopped, when it should be reviewed, that whether it's working or not. If you actively take part in these things, you will slowly find that the doctors also engaging with you, and you are becoming a larger part of the infection control program in your hospital. Active engagement from the frontline nursing staff is crucial to successful antimicrobial stewardship program. Please remember, your facility needs you to be involved. And this is one of the many ways in which the nursing staff can contribute to infection prevention and patient safety. Thank you for your patience. I hope I have not overshot my time.
No, not at all, Dr. Sharmila. Thank you so very much. And in people who are not here, not listening, they are missing something. I did not know that Fleming told so many years ago that if you are not careful, we are going to get into trouble, and we are already in trouble, right? I request people who have got questions, you can put them into the chat box and we will take it up later. So now Dr. Sharmila very aptly drew the picture for us that, it's not going to be easy tomorrow when there is no antibiotic, for sure. And so, but do we need to be totally disappointed? Because there is a saying, if you want your tomorrow to be better, better do something today, right? And that's why we are all here. And that's why Dr. Anita is going to spread some light on what should we do for a better tomorrow. Dr. Anita, over to you.
So thank you, Thankam.
Like the story we are building from, from a bleak tomorrow to see that what can we do today. Okay.
Absolutely. So thank you, Thankam. Just allow me to share the screen. Is it visible?
Yes.
All right. So I think Dr. Sharmila has done a very good context setting and, really kind of shown us the mirror as to what's going to happen if we're not careful, if we don't start putting our act together itself. So the topic, that Thankam chose to give me was, should we wait till tomorrow? And I was wondering that, what is it that is expected out of this particular session, right? So I've just tried to put some of the thoughts together and just a second, my slides are not moving. Yeah. So I'll be pacing my talk under these headings. So we all know, and at the cost of sounding repetitive, we know that hospitals are not safe zones. Adita did mention it, that I'm quite scared, when visiting a hospital, and so are all of us. And one of the major reasons is because of so many errors which happen in a hospital, and nosocomial or hospital-acquired infections being one of them. They are pretty severe in the sense they add to our attributable mortality, they cause an increase in the length of stay, and not to speak of the cost of treatment. Alongside, we have certain collateral damage also in terms of medical legal. We are so scared of them, and patients have become so aware of their rights, that is one thing which is always hanging around our necks. Adverse publicity and increase in antimicrobial resistance are the other collateral damages of hospital-acquired infections. In fact, it's because of the increasing resistance that infection prevention control is also gathering momentum. IPC has been there for many years, but it's only now that almost everybody, globally, it's been spoken about. So, if we look at what is the current state of hospital-acquired infections, the Western world seems to have done better. But if you look at our own country, and which is representative of a lower middle-income country, almost 25% of our hospital admissions, result end up in hospital. Now that's pretty huge. Can you imagine 1 out of 4 person who gets admitted to a hospital ends up getting one of these bad bugs infections, and our most of our healthcare systems across the country we see is overcrowded. It's under-resourced with poor environmental conditions that all add up to the causation of these infections. Antimicrobial resistance, Shamila has touched very beautifully. And here also, if you look at these multiple graphs, one shows the prevalence of methicillin resistance, Staph aureus, or MRSA as we call it in India, and also the carbapenem resistant Enterobacteriaceae, which is really becoming the bugbear for all of us. India is really having a huge problem there, and I can bear it out whenever we are dishing out the reports in the morning. It's very depressing. There are hardly any report where we can see an organism which is multi-drug sensitive. So that is a scenario in larger care hospitals. Not to speak of that, look at the antimicrobial consumption. India is supposed to be one of the countries having the highest antimicrobial consumption in the world. And when you combine it with the high HI prevalence, we have a perfect storm brewing over there. So the situation is grim as it is, right? And look at if you look at our infection prevention and control program, what's the current status? Now, India is a wide country. There's a big country. We have a great healthcare divide here. We have some very small accredited, medical care hospitals where affluent Indians actually access them, which have a strong focus on policies and infection prevention and control. But a vast majority of our hospital have limited or no access to quality care and very poor infection prevention and control practices. Many of us would be working in good hospitals. Probably we haven't seen situations like that. But if you go to a government hospital or a small, secondary care hospital, this would be the normal sight over there. We have gaps in resources, right? Dr. Shamla mentioned that, the running water, which we take for granted, somehow it may not be available in many of the setups, right? Used syringes, are they sterilized or not? May not be practiced in many places. So there are definitely gaps in resources in our own healthcare system. Not only that, what about engineering controls? In infection prevention control, we lay so much of emphasis on good engineering. But if we have hospitals which are which are operational in small residential places, so where is the air control happening there? Where is the air quality that can be certified? Not only that, infection prevention is a science, and we need scientific concepts when we practice, various kind of protocols. So manual washing and drying as opposed to a laundry concept, won't there be a difference? So there is definitely a lack of application of scientific concepts in the way we practice. And it's just, we don't even give it a second thought, whether these clothes, drying outside in the environment, can they be harbinger of any microorganisms that comes back to your patients in the hospital? Forget about resources and controls. What about our attitude and behavior? Now, biomedical waste management is one aspect where the government has been very serious about it. So we have this Biomedical Waste Act, which is mandatory to be followed by all the healthcare institutions, right? So there is a law, we are inspected on that, and we're also penalized. But has that changed our behavior? We still find so much of mixing in our garbages. Forget about in resource poor settings, but even in the best of hospitals, it is a challenge, to convince the staff that we need to be very careful about how we are segregating our waste and how we are handling our sharps. So while we have all these issues, we also have a very fundamental problem because of lack of laws or statutory requirement. Even though the DGCI has come out with a norm that all the antimicrobials should have a red line, which means they need a prescription, the unrestricted sales of antibiotics still continue plenty. And there is scanty surveillance of hospital-acquired infections. So we don't even know how much problem do we have in our hospitals. And if we don't know, that means no data means no problem. So that's why we are oblivious to the challenges that we're actually facing. On top of that, as yet, infection control is still not a part of the medical or nursing curriculum in India yet. So it's the efforts by the likes of Thankam and all who've started this, very important program. But while we are learning, nobody really stresses upon how important infection control practices are in the healthcare. And in this one study, very beautifully, it highlighted how much of a mismatch was there, as to only 31% of students actually followed hand hygiene and 50% kept on recapping the needles. So you can imagine the gravity of the situation where we have lack of resources, we have lack of knowledge, and all this is also contributed by the fact that our national expenditure toward healthcare and its resources is abysmally low if we compare ourselves to the other countries. So both in terms of our physician density per 10,000 population, or the nurses or the hospitals, we are woefully short. And we all know that to practice well, we need to have adequate manpower in all aspects. So it's much below the global standards. So if we were just to put it one slide, you can see all the challenges that are there for the infection preventionists to work together. And these are possibly also the reasons why our hospitals have become hotbeds of not just the infections, but also these superbugs. But if I had to list a couple of them among this long list, it would be the single 2 or 3 things would be the leadership and accountability, adequate resources, data, and behavior and mindset of our staff. So when we have to kind of address these infections, we have to look at all these aspects very carefully and address them in a very systematic manner. So now this was the current situation. What is predicted for the future? It's already been highlighted by the previous speaker. In 2050, the drug-resistant diseases are going to be the major killer, overtaking all other diseases like diabetes, heart diseases, cancer, etc. 10 million deaths are going to take place just because of these bad bugs. Will antibiotics become useless? 2 decades in the future, it's said that every antibiotic we count on now will be destroyed or significantly impaired by resistance. Even now, we only have a handful of antimicrobials left, at least in the tertiary care centers. And before long, we've already started seeing resistance to them as well. It takes years and millions of dollars to develop a new research molecule. And as Fleming had predicted, you discover a drug, the resistance is not far behind. And all this is really going to burden our national economies. Forget about patients or the hospitals. It is going to create an economic burden on the country's economies, and that's why there's so much of focus in prevention of these antimicrobial resistance and development of the infection prevention control program in globally, not just in our country but across the world. Because the world has shrunk, and what impacts us impacts other countries as well. Now, as recently as this year, we did see, we all were, in this throes of this pandemic. The year 2020 marked an unprecedented time where there was increased patient caseload, staffing challenges, and other operational challenges, which limited the implementation and effectiveness of standard infection control practices. Mind you, future pandemics are likely to be deadlier and more frequent. So you can imagine what the future is going to be like when we are going to be faced with such viruses or microorganisms more often than we did. So do we really want to wait for the future for all this to happen, or do we take a hand in shaping it? And therefore, it's extremely important that we act today for a safer care for our patients. And reflecting on the present and future of infection prevention and control, I can very, very emphatically state that it has to be present in the clinical forefront. Infection prevention and control was never given its due, right? It was also always on the sidelines. It was always good to have, right? And but now I think it has to be made into the fabric of a working organization, and action is required at all levels from global to local. So in terms of national initiatives for AMR containment and IPC development, there have been some initiatives, which is very, very encouraging in recent times. We have now a National Action Control Plan. We have commitment to One Health. The Infection Prevention Control Manual has been rolled out. There are guidance documents from India available on antimicrobial stewardship. And very recently, All India Institute has started an entire surveillance network for medical colleges as well. Not only that, this national initiative for public health facilities called as Kaya Kalp is a very extremely interesting concept, where it gives rewards to those public health facilities that demonstrate a high levels of cleanliness, hygiene, and infection control. So there is a multi-pronged strategy, which has been initiated at the government level. It should have started many years ago, but still nothing is lost much. But I would say that still a lot more needs to be done at the state, district, and at the individual hospital level. It's a beginning, but we have to really galvanize this. And in that sense, the infection preventionists, who are attending the session today, they really need to make themselves more relevant in their local environment, which means that they need to take a leading role amidst this scenario. They need to find a voice. They need to educate, empower themselves, and create value for the work that they do. And very importantly, I often say that they have to be seen as the change agents and not just as a data collector or a policing agent. What you do should make a difference to your patient over there. It should add to the safety of staff, patients, and the environment, right? And we have to be accountable for our outcomes. It's not just that we have done some data collection, we have showed them, and we said that's not, everything else is beyond us. So we have to be accountable, and we need to work with policy makers at all levels. As we all understand, every aspect of patient care, and some of them I have enumerated here. These are the key responsible areas of infection prevention, starting from hand hygiene to MTRO surveillance to antimicrobial stewardship. And deliverables on these will depend upon a deeper knowledge and understanding of concepts around these key responsible areas. So we need to really, we really need to understand all these concepts very well for us to be able to make a difference. And therefore, as I say, knowledge leads to power and empowerment, and infection control needs a certification. We all are certified there, and that's a first step in deriving that power to speak up. And just getting the certification is not good enough. You need to keep abreast with the changing and the evolving scientific guidance. So constantly upgrade your knowledge to stay, at the top of things. After that, just education knowledge is just one part of it. You need to have, as infection preventionists, special skills are required, right? And you need to cultivate them. And starting from the assessment skills to communication skills, extremely important. How do you communicate? Because as an infection preventionist, you need to touch base with a wider sector of, healthcare providers, right from doctors to administrators to your safai wala. So you need to be able to have a good rapport with each one of them to be able to herd and make a difference. Research is a very, very important tool, and you must hone your skills there, because as COVID taught us that we had to dig so much, there was so much out there, and we had to take out meaningful information that we could convey to our own healthcare workers. As infection preventionists, we need to be multi-skilled. We need to organize so much. We need to do data collection, education, making sense of that data, communicating. So therefore, your organization skills are extremely important. And as Dr. Shamila also highlighted, the team building skills are something that will take you through this program. So if you have to set up a roadmap, right, where are you on your journey? How do you do that? So with this, you know what you do, you know what the future is, but now what is it that we need to do, to make sure that we save our future? Gone are the days when infection control nurse or infection prevention nurse worked all alone. Now is the time. It's a team approach. It's a multidisciplinary team approach. We need to have many stakeholders, right from medical to non-medical. So the teams that work together are often successful, and they bring about successful outcomes also. So it has to be a multiple task activities, having multiple partners, multidisciplinary approaches, and multimodal strategies. In fact, in infection prevention and control, it's not that one single thing that works. You have to put many strategies together. For example, if you have to prevent the central line bloodstream infections, it's just not the hand hygiene that's going to work. Alongside that, you have to have ways and means to protect your catheter during insertion, maintenance, and so on and so forth. So it has to be a multiple strategic approach that you need to adopt. And as I said, it has to be a team approach, and there are multiple stakeholders in this program. And needless to say, it's a hospital leadership which is at the helm of affairs, and they need to be completely committed to it. Half your job is done if your hospital head is aligned to your requirements and he's sensitive to the needs, and he can define the goals for the organization. And when I say he needs to define the goal for the organizations, he needs to pass it down to all the departmental heads, right? And now we say that for infection prevention and control, every department needs to be accountable for their own clinical infection prevention indicators. They need to monitor, they need to make sure how to put them together, how to bring about improvement in that. And other than that, we have many committees, and most important for infection prevention is the Hospital Infection Control Committee and the Antimicrobial Stewardship Committee. They work in tandem, and their job is more of an advisory, forming guidance, forming policies, advising everybody else in case of any issues, and giving a common direction to the program. It's the infection preventionist, chiefly the infection prevention nurses and the infection control officer, which are the local arm, which is going to implement, which is tasked with the responsibility of finding out, conveying the data, and making sense of it. There are some other important players also in this, like diagnostics and industry, because we cannot forget industry, because for this infection prevention, sometimes we need certain products, also to up the ante, to raise the bar, and therefore industry also needs to be partnered with for a strong infection prevention and control program. As I said, it has to be both a top-down and a bottoms-up approach. So we all need to work in tandem and together. Briefly, the slide just talks about what are the various roles. I've already talked about it. The leadership chiefly is important in setting up the missions and the goals, funding, providing resources, and fixing the departmental accountability with respect to their performance management. In fact, most of the accreditation now ask for that, what are the indicators for infection prevention and control for which the clinicians are responsible. How are you appraising your clinicians? Is it a part of their appraisal tool? So that is a very important change which is now coming. So no longer does it happen infection hota hai, so they say, call the infection control nurse why it happened. The department head is just as responsible for it. Then is the nursing administration extremely important to ensure adequate staffing, ratio, and deployment. But more important that, how do you educate, how do you skill, how do you do competency assessment of your team, and team motivation. And this is one area infection prevention is actually shouldered by the team nursing, and therefore their motivation, their alignment is of extreme importance. And here nursing administration can play a tremendous role. If your nursing leaders are aligned again, your job is kind of easy. And for this, we need the support of the human resources to get us in the right kind of staff, to do trainings and defining the career path as well. Now, two importance that I consider a friend of infection prevention and control are the engineering and the housekeeping. I often say if you have good engineering, half the battle is won. So extremely important to have engineers on your side to learn their job as well. How does negative pressure work? What does it mean? What do you mean by air changes? So as nurses, as infection preventionists, you need to be aware of these fundamentals of good air quality also. So which means ventilation, water control, what are the zones? And finally, the housekeeping, of course, they need to, and even our environmental hygiene program needs to be scientific. It's not just mopping the floor. It's about assessment, risk assessment of the area, the kind of products that you're going to be using, the kind of training that you need to be providing to your team, so they understand the needs of healthcare. And on top of that, you need to make sure that your job is quality assured. I'll not go into the much details because as an infection control nurse is going to be taking the session forward, but as a roadmap, you need to have a procedure manual which sets your direction, which provides your policies, which are easy to reach, teach, and evidence-based. Then you need to have an education program, an audit calendar, addressing the fundamentals of IPNC. And while you're doing all that, you also need to do an infection control risk assessment and management, which means there are a lot of areas, that will be of concern in a hospital. So you need to risk stratify, each of them, where's the risk for staff, where's the risk for patients, where's the risk for environment, and you need to kind of categorize them, prioritize them, and then recommend cost-effective preventive measures, both for the safety of patient, staff, and environment. As I understand, the challenges are much more. Resources are always limited. You can't start big. You need to identify, you need to prioritize your IPC parameters. If there are 20 risk things, probably you cannot start with 20 at one go. So probably pick up 2 or 3, start with a low hanging fruit where, which has a wider acceptance, a high visibility. For example, hand hygiene or prevention of needle stick injuries, they're targeted, they're easy to understand, they're appreciated by all. Monitor them for processes and outcomes. Very important tool is your data, because seeing is believing. So collect data as per the standard definitions in a very honest way. I know Ajita is going to talk about that data doesn't always speak the truth, but I think if the honesty of purpose is there, data can be a very, very powerful tool, and what gets measured gets done. Trust me, if you start monitoring something, half the improvement just happens by that, because when people know that they're being observed, they'll do a very good job. And then they were doing earlier. So present these data or trends on compliance to your management, identify areas that require training, and plan improvement initiative around that. So use data for quality improvement. At the end, IPNC, prevention is a collaboration amongst all stakeholders, and in a blame-free culture. It's very easy. If a surgical site infection happens, the surgeon is the first, a team to blame is the CSS team. So we need to understand that we are all in this together, and it's not just one person's job or one person's problem which is going to, cause issues to us. So it has to be absolute teamwork. And in the sphere of infection prevention and control, it's extremely important that we also look at public-private partnerships, which is now happening. And accreditations are a very, very important tool. We have found huge, benefit of accreditations, not just in branding, but at least getting everybody together on the common platform. It sets a roadmap, it creates a journey for you, and you can garner support easily. So my last 2 slides is what we can do, what can be done, what can be done more vigorously, of course, is the surveillance, benchmarking, and reporting of healthcare associated infections, because if you know where you are, you can find out where the problem is and work on that. Some kind of accreditations should be must for all healthcare organizations, because it helps. For example, for all the government set up, the SkyCal program is quite interesting, and how it's helping people to improve themselves. Not only that, we really need to strengthen our diagnostic laboratories. We need to have better diagnostics, because it means that you can have a targeted therapy. It will help us in reducing unnecessary antimicrobial usage. We need to liaise with the industry for cost-effective solutions for infection prevention and control. Education and awareness at all levels, public healthcare is extremely important. So national campaigns, they generate a lot of buzz. And above all, we need scientific societies for research in infection control. And I do believe that some of you would take that up in your career as well. And needless to say, leadership commitments at all levels is a given. Without that, it's really very difficult to make a difference. In the end, all of us infection preventionists out there have a huge role to play. We have to secure our future from drug-resistant infections and emerging infections. We need to create structure and processes for this program in all types of patient care settings. Something can be done anywhere, no matter how poor or how rich we are, some kind of action is always possible. And all we need to do is focus on basics and fundamentals of this program with a multidisciplinary approach. It doesn't take too much of science, to understand hand hygiene, does it? So it's all about basics, and to kind of be effective, we need to educate, empower both ourselves and the others, and be the change agent for creating a culture of safety. So it's all about, in the end, mapping your problems, monitoring it, measuring it, and then improving, which becomes a continuous process. So we all need to act now before it's too late. We've already seen what the future is going to be like with all these no antibiotics and superbugs and all these problems in the hospital. All the modern healthcare advantages will be gone for a toss if you're not careful about it, or unless the science really comes up with some kind of a breakthrough molecule. But till then, we all need all of you out there, all of us working together tirelessly, no matter what the opposition is, no matter what the acceptance is. We can't lose our focus, we can't lose our steam, and we need to be working tirelessly towards making everybody aware that how infection prevention is important, and it's going to be a savior, and it's the, that's what we need to do. So thank you all of you for your very patient help.
Thank you, Dr. Anita. Thank you very much. I'm going to request Dr. Sharmila and Dr. Anita to be there to answer a few questions, because I know there are other important, webinars going on. You may not stay till the end to answer the question. So I am a little greedy to get some practical questions, because I do this training for infection prevention control nurses. So this keeps coming up again and again. So may I take few minutes with both of you, and then we will move on. We can take 3-4 minutes, I guess. So first of all, I just wanted to thank both of you. Between both of you, you have kind of done a supra mini course on what infection prevention control and what an IPCN should be doing. So I'm glad that, we are kind of covering all of that in our course. But during the training program, I still feel that IPCNs can assert more wherever they are. And one of the things that I think is that the organization, as you said, need to empower them, give them the opportunity to speak up. But to speak up, you need the courage, you need the knowledge behind you. So when we talk about antibiotic stewardship program, one of the major role any nurses can play is to remind the doctor for de-escalation. So the question is, you can only remind if you know that I need to remind. So I think that is where IPCNs should be working with the staff nurses to ensure that the nurses are aware that they can also speak up and tell the doctor, now it is time to de-escalate, or it is now time to stop. Like the doctor must have written some antibiotic for 3 days and he forgot to discontinue, and nurses don't even remind the doctor. So it will go on for 5 days and then you will say, oh, no one reminded me. All these things I have seen it happening. So I think the knowledge part, both of you very nicely, emphasized on. I'm glad about that. So I'm going to ask a couple of, very practical question that comes to my mind again and again and again. Because I hear that, the sponge bath with soap and water is kind of gone. Everybody is using CHG wipes to give bath to the patient. So some hospitals, they have CHG wipes in ICU. Some have that even in the ward, and some are using regular wipes. I have asked many of them to find me what is the content of those wipes. So I keep wondering that these new practices that we are introducing, is it going to help us to get better with antimicrobial resistance, or it is going to make the situation worse? Should we be careful about it? I would like to hear from both of you.
Anita, should I take this question initially? And you can continue. See, let me tell you one thing. If the patient is mobile and is capable of, walking down and taking a shower with antibacterial good soap and water, I think nothing can beat that. And that is not costly. CHG wipes should be confined to patients who are immobile, to keep them clean, and patients who are going in for surgery, probably the day of the surgery, getting a CHG wipe would be a good thing. CHG wipes, chlorhexidine wipes are expensive. Let me, not everybody or all hospitals can afford it. So it should be used with discretion. Like, it's not that just because somebody can, we must never forget that we are a low middle income country. And, even if the hospital has a lot of money, we should not be misusing resources by abusing it. So it definitely, that knowledge should be there, and it should be used with a lot of discretion. I don't know if Anita has an opinion on this.
No, I think I absolutely concur with you. So sometimes the industry also derives, a lot of products into your hospital. So as we say, infection prevention is all about adherence to basics. So good old soap and water works beautifully well, right? So I think if you can do sponging, but sponging has to be done in the right fashion. Of course, chlorhexidine has been used, and the data is there for prevention of surgical site infections, and that too special surgeries like CABG and all. So where it has definitely shown some benefit in reduction in causing a reduction of the SSI, but a blanket use of chlorhexidine for every patient is not recommended, because see what it's going to do, it's going to reduce the bioburden from your skin, right? And the skin is the most important determinant for surgical site infections. When you're putting that incision, you want the bioburden to be lesser on the skin. So that is where its uses, where the study is there, where data is there, where research is there. But we have extrapolated this now to our practices in ICUs. We feel that ICUs, we have so many devices onto the patient, so it makes good sense to reduce the bioburden by using chlorhexidine. And it's convenient. It's also convenient for the staff, because they just take off the wipes and they are doing their activities. It reduces their time. But blanket usage is not recommended, and only in maybe the surgical site infections or patients who are critically ill. Probably there is where we can use it. So even for critically ill, we don't have much data.
Yes, thank you so much for clarifying that, because I keep thinking that it's not a good idea to use it blanket. Even if someone can afford, I think we are actually contributing to resistance. It's like use too much of disinfectant at home. You are making the people who are staying in the home vulnerable to, infections, because we have our own natural, defense mechanism, which should not be broken down. So one thing that I thought, that if I was in the hospital right now, and if then people are trying to push the chlorhexidine, what will I say? I will probably say, why don't we look at the baby wipes? If you want to use wipes to clean the patient, you don't want to give a proper sponge bath, with soap and water. Baby wipes are pretty safe, right? And that can be used for patients who are not critically ill, who are not going for surgery. And CHCs should be reserved for patients where the recommendations has been proven. There is evidence that if you use this, there will be less of infection. So thank you for concurring with my thought. And that is a shout out to all the people sitting here to go back and reflect. It's important to ask questions. It is not necessary that everything that comes in the hospital should be adopted and used, but we should be able to ask questions diligently. Is it the right thing to do? If not, ask each other. Maybe coming to webinars like this, discussing with others will shed some light upon that. There are two other areas, since I'm not seeing any questions, but I am very greedy to ask to both of you before you will say that I have another seminar to go. Two questions. Each one of you can take. There are two things which had been bothering me. One is the full sleeve of the clinicians. Okay, because there are literature now coming out, full sleeves can be the culprit for carrying microbes from this side to that side, just like our hands, because the full sleeves does not allow you to wash your hands properly, and then you are going and seeing the patient. The second culprit is the lanyard. The lanyard that is used for all the employees in the hospital. And I have seen my nurses, ICU nurses also, when they want to care, they will take this lanyard, put it like a dupatta to the back, and then they do the care for the patient. If you observe, most of the Western world has done away with lanyards. They have only this nameplates. They may have 2, 3, 4, 5. Everything is but clipped on, but there are no lanyards. So I keep telling my IPCNs who come for training that, I don't know who will take the courage to do some cultures from the sleeve ends and from the lanyards to see that, what all things they are carrying. So if I was still working, I would have definitely asked Dr. Sharmila and Dr. Anita, say, let's do this. I would have told, let's do this, to find out. So what do you think? What do you think about these two thoughts?
This is not the right thing to do, because this is like a tie. We have done away with the concept of having a tie when going to see patients. We discuss it so many times. This is also not the thing to do. Clips are definitely better. And Anita, if you can.
Yeah, so I think the lab coats, this is something, we've been talking in my hospital. We actually ran a campaign also on this called as Bare Below Elbows. And we made a lot of fun on this because people showed all kind of pictures to us. Bare Below Elbows means a naked bottom down or something like that. And here, in terms of our ICUs, we're still better place because most of our staff is wearing scrubs, which is like
Yeah.
short sleeve. But for the areas where, especially the doctors, because even the nurses, their dress code apparently is half sleeves, lab coat, but the doctors are always wearing full sleeves coat. And when I first proposed this idea to my management, there's a lot of resistance from the doctors. He says, this is what differentiates us, we cannot be wearing half sleeves coats and things like that. And so we made it important. We made it kind of clear to them that if they are visiting the ICUs, that they need to take off their lab coats or roll the sleeves up. So still we have not been able to convince our doctors, and sometimes we believe that instead of wasting so much of your energy into convincing something, it's always easy to focus your energies towards more important things like, let's say, hand hygiene. So but I completely agree with you, Thankam, that it's the elbows are, the long aprons of the sleeves are the ones which would carry bugs from one person to another. And I have a very interesting story here to share. Many years ago, we were part of a hand hygiene day. 5th of May, we were observing it. We're having a lot of activities in our auditorium, and our marketing was streaming it live to the WHO website. And here we were sitting very proudly in the lecture theater or auditorium with full sleeved aprons. And somebody from WHO actually commented that what does an infection preventionist have to say about these long sleeves? Right. So, we were kind of, embarrassed also. And we says, my God, yes, this is so important, and I completely agree with you that at least in the patient care areas, either patients should take off their aprons when they're visiting patients and roll off their sleeves, whether be it a shirt or of aprons. They are one of the dirtiest things you have on you, because they go from one person to another, and invariably when you're taking care of the patients, your sleeves are going to touch some part of the patient environment.
It's very right, I mean, since our hospital is a new hospital and we are trying to put all the rules and regulations in place, I have been fighting that.
Dr. Sharmila, can you unmute yourself, please? By mistake, I muted you. Yeah.
I have been kind of fighting that nobody is allowed to wear their white coats when they are in IPD and in ICU, and only white coats are allowed when you go to see patients in OPD. So luckily, most of the doctors are also kind of coming around and saying, yes, we should not be wearing white coats. So if we can get that in place, it will be some achievement, I think.
Absolutely.
I am so happy. Thank you, Dr. Sharmila and Dr. Anita. I'm so happy that, our thought process is aligned, and there is definitely awareness, and, you're already thinking about it. I think that's the beginning of a change. If you don't even think about it, then nothing is going to happen. I think a lot of campaigns abroad is happening. That is the BBB, bare below BBL. I mean, BBE, sorry, bare below elbow. I think a lot of campaigns are happening. And I think some hospitals have gone ahead and changed the aprons into 3/4. I mean, they have, the sleeves not here, but they have it somewhere here, so that, below elbow, it is free for them to do hand hygiene. So I think those are some practical points I just wanted to check with both of you. And I'm not seeing any questions in the chat box. So thank you so much for both of you. And I would definitely love to have you around. So because if there are more questions, then we can come back to you with that. Thank you. And let's now move on to the next segment, where I am going to have a chat with our young IPCNs, So let me call upon Ashwati and Gaurav to come on the screen. Let me see, where is Ashwati? Yeah, okay, great. So thank you so much for being here, and both of you are here. So let me first of all ask you that why did you choose to be an IPC? We would love to hear that, what made you take and, kind of select IPCN's role? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. As Dr. Anita and Dr. Sharmila ma'am said about the emergence of antimicrobial resistance program, I think the role of infection preventionist is on a broader aspect. So when I look into my career, I started my career in nursing 15 years back as a critical care nurse. Then I worked for almost 9 years in critical care nurse as a nurse, then become in charge, then become a critical care supervisor. So when I looked into that critical care there was no recognition of infection control strategy before 9 to 10 years, which as it stands today. So though actually technically we are improving nowadays in terms of technology, in terms of modular OT, new machines are coming up, but infection control practices actually were not parallel with them. So there were actually several lacunas at that time, several loopholes, like bundles are not being actually followed at that time in all the hospitals. There was no monitoring of antibiotics in the hospitals, and even the simplest of hand hygiene was not up to the mark. So I strongly believe that infection control should be the main stay of any clinical practices, and I always had an inclination towards improving this. So, and recently, COVID-19 also shown a bright light on the importance of infection prevention. And since COVID, actually, there has been, you can see an increase in demand for people to fill up IPCNs. Even not only in the hospitals, even nursing home, small hospitals are also filling the vacancies for the infection prevention. So I love being an infection preventionist because I got to interact with people and also to be involved in every department of the healthcare system. So I think the career of IPCN is very bright, and you can choose IPCN as your career. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gaurav. So that's a lot of promotional material for future IPCNs, and also indirectly you touched all the challenges also IPCN. So someone who is wanting to overcome challenges, exciting life, make a difference, probably they are the ones who want to be IPCN. So let's hear from Ashwati. What made you to become an IPCN?
To be frank, my CNO has selected me, my previous organization, CNO has selected me to become an ICN without knowing the roles and responsibility of the ICN. Only the experience which I had was the exposure to the intensive care. And then I became a team leader from there, and I was searching for a similar job in the new city. So then my previous organization, CNO, has offered me to become an ICN. Then I started coming to this IPCN field. Then I've done my certification. Now it's like I understood what is the important or what changes can make in the hospital or what we can do it independently. So this is the things or this is the possibility. So we got a chance to make changes on it. So that made me to now become comfortable to this way of working and to the job responsibilities. And now it's become a passion to work as an IPC.
Great.
And Gaurav said, as like Gaurav said, it is like now I realize it is an demanding one. Like if I'm saying it's and I'm an IPCN, then there is a scope for even if I move out from this city to other world, I'll be like I have confidence that I'll be get valued.
Exactly. So apart from the career recognition, one of the things that I look at IPCN as a leader by themselves. If I'm a nursing head in a hospital, I definitely would love to have an IPCN who is highly knowledgeable, confident, decision-making, and warning me, ma'am, there is a problem brewing, you need to do something, I definitely would love to have an IPCN like that. So let me try to understand from you, what hurdles did you face in your journey as an IPCN? From the time you became IPCN till now, is there some hurdles that you faced?
Yes, ma'am. We can the hurdles which I have faced to become an IPCN. First, will be the critical communication with the team. Like for example, to like an SSA, if we present the case study, this is the reason or this is the supporting factors. After doing my study, this is the RCA factors. Course to confirm is an SSA. There will be some resistance from some other area which they will have like no, this is not an SSA. So that's make a difference. And even though we are given with an liberty or kind of leadership to go and speak, this is wrong or this is where you can say that this is something is going wrong which need to be changed. There will be some certain areas we'll feel difficulties where we cannot communicate directly, or we know that before we start the communication we may get a resistance, so that those areas will get an help from the chairperson or from the CNO or some other person to have an support. So that is a difficulty still which we have.
Okay. So communication, especially with the seniors and the star doctors in the hospital can be a challenge, right? And for that, I think a lot of courage, a lot of confidence is required from an IPCN. And that courage and confidence mostly comes into a role when you are knowledgeable about it. Then slowly you learn how to understand the person opposite and, manage your conversations. Okay. Let me ask the same question to Gaurav. So what are the hurdles? You have been an IPCN for a longer time, 6 years. So what are the hurdles that you faced?
I'm totally agree with Ashwati. Like as she said, there was the initial challenges when you will be started with your career. But I think infection prevention and control nurse should be have some assessment and communication skills, some leadership skill, and along with that, some teamwork responsibility should be there. And when I have started my career, that job can be stressful at that time because people initially were not receptive for things to accept and improving the infection control practices. And people even when were not bothered to wash their hands, were not bothered to do a hand hygiene properly. So every time I have to, and the thought process is like that. What will make any difference after washing the hands? So then I proved it experimentally by an culture method. I took a fingerprint on the culture plates and showed them that how casual if how you can carry your germs if you wash your hands so casually. So this initially this was the concern. And also, when we started our antimicrobial stewardship program 4 years back, we had an issue with we had received a lot of resistance among the clinicians. Someone had an ego clashes. Someone were not receptive to change their existing pattern of writing the antibiotics. But yes, we did a antibiotic awareness session in the form of role play, in form of public awareness. Then we have done a promotional video display on Facebook. Also, we have involved all the doctors and all the nurses who are a part of our infection prevention and team. Link nurses we have included. So it slowly helped us to become on the track actually. So this is two major challenges. And apart from this, I think training and reinforcement is also a major challenge, which I believe, because the attrition level of housekeeping staff is quite high. So training again and again becomes a difficult task for them. So these problems I have faced my career during my initial career in infection as an infection prevention.
As like I'm supporting to Gaurav's point, I would like to say one more. The challenge comes is the everybody expect a faster result, even though without giving a proper time period to get to change the results. Like for example, coming to the hand hygiene, like this is the hand hygiene rate for our unit or our organization, which you need to be make it into high so that, but it will take a time for everybody to train and to change the trainings. Like as Gaurav said, the attrition rate is mainly to the housekeeping, nurses, doctors, BMOs, everybody, the attrition rate is as equal everywhere. So that we need a timing to everybody to teach and to make the changes. But then within 1 month, they'll say like this, you need to be have a zero needlessly injury next month. So that is difficult. Really, this is not possible. So that short time expectation without giving to make a proper change to make a show a result, that is a challenge for an IC.
I totally agree with both of you that people are expecting magic from you, right?
Yes.
Oh, this is the problem, right? Next month, it is abracadabra, it is going to disappear. What we are driving at is that being an IPCN in today's time is not easy. And then any amount of knowledge and skills that you acquire may fall short. So it is very important that, the IPCN should be on a continuously learning curve and understanding what is going on and what can be done. Now, very quickly, I was just thinking about when Gaurav was mentioning about the frequent attrition of housekeeping. So one of the things that I'm thinking that if this is a problem that I'm going to face, I will immediately say, why don't you make small videos in the local language, Hindi, and keep it ready and give it to the department and say, this video should be then, seen and, questioned. You can have two components of knowledge and skill, and then, observe them once to see that they know what they are doing. So that way it can save you a lot of time. So technology needs to be used effectively so that, your personal time can be saved for other important observational things, So, so let's go move on to, let me ask the next question. Both of you have been trained and maybe retrained for being an IPCN. So now I will ask you that how critical is it to have an IPCN properly trained? When I say properly trained, means understanding how to lead the infection prevention and control practices in a hospital. How critical is that to get someone trained?
Yes, ma'am, it is, we would say it's really, it's an important thing. Like if the ICMs, first of all, should have a proper trained one in the case, like as ma'am said, what are the current things or what are the current trends which is happening, or what are the other current issues which is running around, and this is the practical, so that the ICM should have the proper knowledge regarding that as well, so that it will be easy for them to implement and proper changes on their organization. And also if as this communication part as well, if we are not confident enough, it again will reflect us on their communication aspects. If we are not confident enough on something, it will be directly or indirectly will be impacting on the presentations everywhere, whatever which we are doing it. So that, and also that's a recommendation by this NABH or any other national bodies, like they were asking foreign certified ICMs to make sure they have the basic required qualification to have a controlled role on this IPCN.
How about you, Gaurav?
Yeah, ma'am. As Ashwati already said about certification training program, yes, I do believe training should be an integral part of not only for infection control, but for all the nurses in the hospital. And the training should be done regularly, religiously, and vigorously. So training is not just that you just give you want a certificate. You should have a basics. You should have a knowledge of from basics to all the aspects of healthcare infection prevention. Like the infection control should be at your fingertips, because you are dealing with every doctors, nurses, housekeepings, and everybody have faith also that you can have you should have a deeper knowledge of infection control, because when we are dealing with antimicrobial stewardship program, we should have a knowledge of surgical antibiotic policy and other antibiotic policy, how to de-escalate the antibiotics. So that is very important to have a deeper knowledge of infection control practices from basics to all the aspects of infection control. And obviously, like I'm trained under you. I'm very honored and privileged that I'm trained under you, because you have shown us not only the basics. You have your way of teaching is very unique, and which not only creates us given knowledge, it also gives a sense of responsibility and leadership.
Thank you, Gaurav, for that. I think what you both are alluding to is that training is mandatory, but also not just training for certificate, but having the commitment to transfer what you learned into real life. But let me tell you, the challenge is very big. I think from 2013, I must have given basic infection control tests to all cadres of nurses, seniors, juniors, infection control nurses, everyone, maybe thousands. I have not done a data analysis, but I still feel sad to say that, though I ask basic questions, very few get 80% marks. I mean, I still keep wondering then what is the gap? I think it's the gap is where people are doing things without understanding the why part of it. Why am I doing this? So my shout out to all the people sitting here who are involved in guiding people, training people, and responsible for training people. You should always be looking at explaining the rationale. I mean, that's the right word in nursing. We use rationale. The rationale for doing something. It's very important for people to know why they are doing something. Then probably they will continue to practice that. Otherwise, it is, customary that, there should be training and we should do, whatever NABH is asking is what we are going to give. If NABH is not asking, I'm not interested. That is little sad. So I think IPCN should be little more than that. Ask questions. If there are more troubles in your hospitals, you are going to ask more questions. So my next question is about many IPCNs I have seen when I am doing training also. Many of the audits and the audits compliance or the bundle, audits, they are actually taking from somebody else, ticking the checklist and saying this is, aggregate those data and say, this is the compliance. I have a major concern with that. If it is my ICN who is going to collect all these ticks and tell me this is the compliance, I probably will not accept it. So I want to understand that, do you think that IPCN should get into active audits, if not everything, but at least they should have a strategy of auditing all the critical components in a sample-wise manner? Nobody asks you to audit everything and everywhere. What do you think about that? I would love to hear that from you.
Yes, I'm totally believe in that key. The IPCN should do the audits in their because it is a job of an ICN. But I also believe that teamwork can make a huge difference in infection prevention and control. So and it is very helpful when you train them properly. Our link nurses, when you train them properly, if you recognize them and identify them. So they can be that they are specialized nurses. So I think we can start with the audits, small audits like a hand hygiene audit. We can start with our link nurses, and slowly we can start with other audits also. Because as madam, you might be knowing, NABH has given a criteria of 2 ICN in a 200 bedded hospital, but now it came to 1. NABH has given a criteria of 1 ICN in a 200 bedded hospital, being alone.
From where it is coming.
Yeah, I
Because
don't.
The government has written 1 for 250. So suddenly, I really wish that the hospital should assert. If the NABH says that you keep 1 nurse for 200 patients, the hospital should say that it is not possible, because this is one of the most critical area that the entire hospital is working towards to prevent patients from getting infection, right? So I really hope the hospitals will assert and say, NABH will not blame you if you have 2 for 200 nurses. Are they saying, why do you have to? No. I think somewhere we are forgetting that the why part of it. Why there should be 1 nurse per 100 patients? It should be justified, right? Then even if then tomorrow there is a law which says that 1 is good enough for 500, are we going to jump and say, oh, very happy, I don't need to keep an ICN? That's really sad. So Ashwati, let me ask you that, what do you think? So one very important fact that came from Gaurav is that if you use other people, of course, you will do your sample audits. And if you are going to use other people to do audit, they must be trained to do the audit. Because when I do the training, I ask everyone that when you do a bundle audit, how do you audit that the line, there is one thing, assess for the need for ventilator or the need for line daily. How will you assess? Most of the time, the answer is what? 100% of the time, the answer is unsatisfactory from an ICA. Now you can imagine what will happen to the other people. ICN is not very sure. How am I going to verify this? And if you think that if you are not sure, then you need to have a discussion with the microbiologist that how do we verify that they have actually talked about this today? The line is required or not required? But then the tick is already there in the checklist. Every day tick is there. So I don't understand from where you get to put this tick. Ashwati, your thoughts?
Ma'am, I think sometime we could split up the work and give to the others like link nurses or something, because it will help them to understand the magnitude of the problem. how deep it is, or what is important to identify this reason to be tracked, and also like how to do it. We should not give to anybody who is like to the clinicals, cannot be allowed to do this split up work. Like only the trained persons, like suppose when link nurses, they should know it, like as ma'am said, if coming to this bundles checklist, how, what is the sedation vacation on that, or how did you assess on this one, whether if you have marked it or not, or are you really took a break from giving the sedation with discussing to your consultant, or whether it is documented in your nurses note or in your IC chart, it is mentioning 1 to 2 p.m. is the sedation break, which we have been given any fortune or phenyl whatever. So that will be making a difference. So train the person, sometimes it will be good to split up the works and to give them. And obviously, absolutely, this ICN has to do the audit in regular basis, but in some certain points, we can split up the works and we can give others to do it.
I totally agree with both of you. I am not saying the IPCN only will do the audit, but I have a challenge. When IPCNs are only collecting the ticks from all the other people and saying this is my audit result, there is a challenge. Then that IPCN is not behaving in the best interest of the patient, because IPCNs are the eyes and ears for the patient, that everybody is following the infection prevention practices. So you cannot report simply somebody else who is doing. You need to verify that for yourself. That's why the IPCN should be good in audit and finding out, what I'm getting from others, they are right or not. So most of the care bundle audits are kind of just statements. It does not say that what are you supposed to do when you do an audit. So it's very important. I keep thinking, I think maybe our creation of audit checklist itself needs some updates to say what needs to be done when you look for that point. When you say catheter care given, right? Now, how are you going to check the catheter care is given? So Ashwati may think that, I will ask the patient. Gaurav may think that I will look at the documentation. I may think that I'm going to tell the patient, I want to see whether your catheter is clean or not. So there are 3 different methods, right? Now, if you don't specify, you are going to get results in different ways of looking at that. And then again, you will be struggling to find out why we are not getting results. I'll give you another classical example. Many of you use WHO hand hygiene audit checklist, right? Every time I ask, okay, your hand hygiene compliance good, give me by percentage, by healthcare professional, which is the moment, which is percentage wise, not just story. Everybody says the 5th moment is the problem. I said, fair enough, give me the percentage. Who is the lowest in the 5th? Doctors, nurses, housekeeping, GTA, who is the one? But that data is not available with IPCNs, but you already have collected the data, because WHO very clearly gives all that data collection points. It's a matter of understanding how to talk that story, because it's very important to tell the people what is happening in the hospital. And I am shouting out to all the IPCNs to become that leader, because maybe many others don't have the time to get into this data, deep dive and say that category wise, these are the moments that is happening. So I am using your forum to ask all the IPCNs that think about what more can you achieve by doing what you are doing right now. Because I always say that if you can kill 5 birds with one stone, you must try to give 5 birds. Kill 5 birds. Why should you kill only one? Why only you will report the hand hygiene compliance? There is much more data which is sitting there. So I think you already kind of elaborated, touched on the infection control, linked infection prevention. I don't want to use the word control. I keep correcting myself, because if tomorrow has to be better, better we prevent today, because there'll be nothing to control tomorrow. Yes, because there is no antibiotics, no? So better to start preventing from today. So what do you think is the role of infection prevention, linked nurses? What do you think? So I would like to, discuss with you that. Gaurav, can you tell me, what do you think?
As I told you, the role of link nurses is, should be clearly defined, and they should be certified actually before we will give any responsibility to them. So the trained certified link nurses should be in each department, and I think involving link nurses is in infection control is a good strategy, because we can improve on the clinical, we can touch on the clinical practices. Also, we can ask them what are the reach in clinical practices in their departments. And like nowadays, medication nurses are there, diabetic nurses are there, pressure injury champions are also there. I think the concept of link nurses will work out, and it will be useful and helpful. And they can also act as a link nurse between the clinical their own clinical area and infection control team. And their role is to just create awareness among the staff, and to control the infection control issues in the departments. And also they can start, as I told you, ma'am, they can start with hand hygiene data. They can regularly monitoring the cleaning efficacy, and also can report any biomedical waste irregularities in their departments. And the needle stick injury which people which staffs are hiding, they can report directly to the IPCNs. So I think and also they can be a good preceptor and mentor for the new joinee staffs who are coming just right now. And they can teach them very nicely the infection control. And also the housekeeping staff can be trained by the certified nurses. But I think as I told you, as it is an additional responsibility to them. So I think we should give some sort of additional remuneration or some appreciations to them, so that they can also feel a sense of responsibility, and they will come out with more flying colors.
Okay, great. Some great thoughts coming out there. So Ashwati, after that, I will wrap those answers up. Yeah.
Yes, when coming to this link nurses concept, it's like one or two ICUs cannot be seen everywhere at a time. Like there will be 2 or 3 central line infection will be happening at a time in 3 ICUs. There will be link nurses, the trained person, the trained link nurses will be helping our infection prevention control tracking system, or she or he can be acting behalf of an ICN to be a champion to become in an IPCA. So that's really because as Gaurav said, this trained persons will be helping to train the new joiners or any policy changes which we have changed, any new implementation which we have to make in our organization. This concerned link nurses will be training their unit staff, or if in any of the DMOs or any of the technicians, if they are not following the hand hygiene, isolation will not be there all the time there. So the concerned trained person will be alerting the healthcare worker that you are going to something you're doing wrong. So that will really work. So at the same time, the link nurses should get recognized, like certified specific job responsibility are given by many of the hospitals nowadays. So that's not a new one, but certification is a new thing, or the management or the our team has to be think about that to recognize them, so that they will be appreciated. They will be feeling even more to work actively to become a IPCN champion.
Okay, great. Between both of you are definitely championing for link nurses. I totally agree with you. 1, 2, or 3 nurses cannot be seen everywhere, and the practices are 24/7. It is never stopping. So as I look at it as a strategy, if I have to think about it as a nursing leader, I will probably look at an infection link nurse every shift in every ward. That's the kind of number I will be looking at, so that 24/7. Many times I keep thinking, why do we think that the patient care is very important between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Now, after that, everything goes down. It's not like that. Patients are there, care is happening, right? 24/7. So when we look at link nurses, yes, certification, knowledge testing, skill testing, certification, and definitely recognizing them by giving some additional remuneration. I know those are the things that can be considered. But first is important to agree that we need link nurses, at what numbers, and then what will be their JD, and what kind of a training they need, and what will be their deliverables, So there are many things that nurse leaders can also think to come about with a model by which today we can do something, so that tomorrow we are not doomed. because we already know that tomorrow is going to be very difficult for all of us. So better to do something today. So I think that's a great, answers from both of you, and that's a food for thought, all the senior people sitting here. And so let me come back to you. The last question is that quickly, I would like to know from you, what do you think are the challenges for IPCN tomorrow?
The challenges for futures, a lot as there, ma'am. As Anita Sharma has said, this the scientific behavior of the healthcare workers is the greatest challenge, I would say. Like for the hand hygiene, if we say teaching, obviously education is important. Education is not there, then we can't even implement anything. But even if after we give the education, if they are not changing their behavior to do the hand hygiene, that will not make any difference. That will be one thing I should say that. And for example, coming to this needle-stick injury again, we teach them what do not do, what should not be done. But it's up to me whether I should recap it or not. So that makes a difference on that. So that is one major challenge, I would say, always. And one more major challenge which I feel is the tracking system of the infection control practices. Like nowadays, the apps and all is available for the hand hygiene, and also some are bringing with the machineries where they can track the hand hygiene percentage. So, but this needs some like artificial intelligence, and in our India, it's need to be to have a more support on that to come into a better tracking system for this infection control practices, because all the time we cannot see it. As even ma'am said, there is one concept like link nurses, keeping one link nurses in every shift to cover 24/7, but that is an idea, nice one. But it's apart from that, even if nobody is watching us, we should do it, and we should know what is the practices or practice level, or what is the complaint rate of their practices in the clinical. So that should be tracked in an automatic assessment system. So that I feel that is one more difficulties in our country.
I understand. So you are alluding to having more technology enabled, tracking systems which can happen. And yeah, I think in India there is a lot of scope for some
Yes.
basic apps, where all your data collection can happen, and you are not spending a lot of time trying to work on the Excel sheet, which can be easily, taken care by an app. So Gaurav, what do you think are the future challenges?
Apart from technological advancement and behavioral changes, as Ashwati said, I think Dr. Sharmila and Dr. Anita have already spoken on the rising antimicrobial resistance. So I think the misuse and overuse of antibiotics is now a major concern, and which can be, I think, which should be focused not only by the healthcare workers. It should be the awareness should be given to the public also, the community also, and government should also be very stringent on the use of antibiotics. Like the government has to do start. I think they can start doing recycling of antibiotics with the help of pharmaceutical companies. Like seeing the resistance pattern of colistin and fosfomycin nowadays, because colistin and fosfomycin drugs are also now resistant to in almost all of the issues. So if we can save that antibiotics, and with the help of government and pharmaceutical companies, with these drugs can be recycled for after 5 years. So I think it can help in dealing with the resistance pattern of AMR. Also, similarly, the resistance pattern is also, as you said, it is similarly with the disinfectants. Also, the rising pattern is increasing. So, if we can switch on to the new disinfectant based on our policy, like if we are using quaternium ammonium compound right now, we can switch to other hydrogen peroxide compounds after 2 to 3 years. So, I think this will help us in improving the initiatives at all. Also, I think good engineering controls should be in place, not only in big hospitals, also in small care hospitals where patients are coming from referral centers with surgical surgery already done in the small hospitals. I think if we have a good engineering controls with temperature and humidity at that small hospitals, I think we can achieve some good infection SSI rates. Also, we can achieve, and along with that, the recently the cost of disinfectants and the products which we are using nowadays in infection control, I think, like as you said, chlorhexidine wipes, ma'am. So every patient cannot bear that cost of chlorhexidine wipes. So sometimes it becomes difficult, and management also does not want to bear that cost. And if they will bear that cost, it will come to the disallowances for them. So if government can take some initiative to design a comprehensive infection control package for that for that patients, I think these are some of the challenges, and infection control we have to make sure that challenges should be should reach to the government also. Now recently one of the JCI Dr. Prabhu was there. He was doing a study on various antimicrobial stewardship program, how people are capturing data, how DDD is capturing, and I think he's doing very great work to collect the data and will show to. I think he will show to government seeing the pattern of antibiotic resistance, and maybe we will have a future for the antibiotics. Thank you.
Okay, Gaurav, that's a very extensive and visionary, points that you brought about, the government also I think government is slowly waking up. That's why Kaya Kalp has now started. And there is a website from the government where you can report all your hospital-acquired infections. I don't know how many of you know that. I think Apollo Proton is one of the hospital I could see on the website. So it is very important, all the people sitting here, we have to have data from our own country so that we can have our own benchmarks. Now, coming back to chlorhexidine, please, the message here is not that chlorhexidine is expensive. The message here is chlorhexidine should be used where it is required only. So even if, the patient can afford, we are not going to use chlorhexidine because it is going to increase the AMR. So that's the message, everybody should take home from here. Just because patient can afford, so if a celebrity comes, obviously he can afford. So you're not going to give him bath with the chlorhexidine every day, even if there is no indication. So please don't misunderstand that. We should not use that. So I think great, Ashwati and Gaurav, lot of thought-provoking discussions, and very nice to hear the youngsters, thinking about the future and, able to, articulate that these are the challenges we have to face. And both of you had very wide and, visionary statements to give. So that is really great. And talking about, working with the government, that is also important. Probably the government has to hide all the colistins in some bunker and say, don't produce colistins anymore, so that tomorrow we have something to fight our, microbes with. So I'm sure, I think we are struggling with a lot of basic problems. I can go to any pharmacist and get any antibiotic that I want, except when Corona was there, it was difficult to get, medicines easily. But after that, I can go and ask for any antibiotic. Nobody's going to ask me for prescription. I will get it. I think that is from where we have to start, that antibiotics will be only given for prescription. And another very good point we discussed is about the education of the public. Even in my family, when they go to the doctor and come back, they will say, "ठीक था doctor, लेकिन कोई antibiotic लिखा ही नहीं." So that is their complaint. The doctor did not write any antibiotic, So the public also needs to be educated that antibiotic is not the treatment for everything in the world. And Dr. Sharmila told in the beginning, if it's a viral infection, why do you want to give antibiotics, right? So there are a lot of things that we need to think about. And IPCNs carry this burden of knowing all these things and talking to people, because that is your domain. Maybe the bedside nurses are into cardiology domain, that domain, this domain, which also includes infection prevention. You are the specialist in that field. So make yourself special with all the current knowledge and then talk to people. That's very important. So with that, I'm going to invite Rajeshwari Vethri, that's her full name. She's the IPCN from Apollo Proton Center. So she's going to discuss about the role of IPCNs in the future. So we are all worried about tomorrow, no? So let's see that what does she think is going to happen, okay? Thank you, Ashwati and Gaurav, for a wonderful chit chat on the role. Thank you so much for that, and take care and all the best. God bless you. Raji, over to you. Yes, we can see you. Raji, keep your video also on so that you can also be seen at the same time.
Yes, ma'am. You can see me.
No, Raji, your video is not on. Your presentation is on.
How is it okay, ma'am?
We can hear you. We can see your presentation, not you.
Ma'am, Dr. Swapna Nangia.
Yeah, now we can see you. No worries.
The role of infection. Namaste, my topic is the role of infection prevention. And
I think, Raji, 1 second, you need to talk a little bit more louder. I think you're a little away from the speaker, maybe. Talk a little bit more louder.
Ma'am, is it okay? No?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask somebody else, Gaurav, Ashwati, can you hear Raji well?
No, ma'am.
No, Raji, you are very soft.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah, you need to go a little bit more louder, almost shouting. Okay.
Ma'am, namaste. Namaste, all. My topic is the role of infection prevention control nurse for the future. My name is Rajeshwari. I am working as a nursing officer in IPCS and Apollo Proton Cancer Center. I would like to tell Apollo Proton is the first and only proton center in South Asia and Middle East, and it is India's first JJ accredited cancer hospital. I'm really blessed and fortunate to be associated with the Apollo Proton. Once again, I would like to express my sincere gratitude, Ma'am Tangam Gomez, for giving me the opportunity. And I would like to thank our CNO, Nijo Thomas Varakan. She is the one motivating me to participate, even the course, even any one new program comes, please participate, please. This is the open opportunity for you to deliver your thought. I'm really thankful both of you, ma'am. Next, any accredited body, one of the mandatory requirement, just like NABS or JCA or NECP, is a qualified IPCN in the hospital for accreditation. So it's very, very mandatory to have IPCN in the qualified IPCN in the hospital. IPCNs are the one of the pillars on patient safety. So in this, I would like to say few small, I'm highlighting the few points regarding IPCN. Gathering and analyzing infection control data to make evidence-based decisions and educating the medical and healthcare professionals, infection control, infection prevention and control protocol to facilitate the emergency preparedness, not only the hospital to the community-wide, as well as isolating and treating the infected individuals to contain the spread of infectious disease. As the village was said, infection prevention and control practice, evidence-based approach, preventing patients and healthcare workers are being harmed by avoidable infections. Infection prevention and control is not only saving you, we are saving you, me, my family, as well as the entire community in the hospital. As I would like to say, the qualification of IPCN. Its variation in the qualification of IPCN, it is differ from each healthcare setting. It should be defined qualification for IPCN to deliver the effective care to the patient. In India, if the nurse wants to become IPCN, she has to be graduate or diploma nurse registered with the State of Nursing Council. If you compare, as Sati said, the IPCNs are becoming, after becoming the IPCN only, they are learning the infection control practices. If you compare to the developed country, the IPCN has to hold a post-secondary degree in the health field and need to have the completed to at least 1 year of full-time working in infection control or part-time and 2 years of part-time in infection control, and as well as completion of 3,000 hours of infection prevention working past 3 years. Next slide. So the IPCN vision for the future is a profession which embeds the legacy of innovation. IPCNs understand his or her power to disparate the innovative changes in healthcare for the better. Let me talk about the critical issues in nursing. As we all know, manpower. Manpower is the critical issues in nursing. As well as some of the studies, maybe the requirement as we discussed before in the panel discussion, most of the hospitals, if it is IPCN, you have to have one IPCN has to take care of 100 to 250 bedded patients. Do you think it's possible to take care of one IPCNs to 100 or 250 bedded hospitals? Most of the time, if you see the IPCNs, they are mostly focusing on the data collection and gathering, analyzing the message instead of spending time with the patient care. The IPCN, we have to be more visible in the patient care or bedside activities, what our juniors or our beloved nurses are doing. Next thing, career pathway for our IPCN. Defined career pathway need to be created for nurses who are willing to become an IPCN. If you ask a nurse who wants to become if you ask the nurse to become what in the future, they won't say about IPCN. They all will say about CNO, nursing officer, maybe the CEO or future leader, whatever it may be. We have to create a pathway in the future. We have to create a pathway to attract the young nurses to become an IPCN. And using the artificial intelligence data collections, it sounds fun, but same thing. The robot, we have to create a robot like using artificial intelligence. The robot has to stand in front of the hospital, maybe the critical care area, high risk area, immunology, BMT, whatever it may be. The robot acts like a bouncer to act. Anyone enters the hospital without the hand hygiene, it has to be stopped. That time itself, if it is stopping, this work leads to reduce the burden of the infection prevention control nurse, as well as it will increase the patient safety, as well as it will give the more awareness regarding hand hygiene. Next thing, we all have a link nurse in the hospital. Whether our link nurses are knowledgeable or whether they are satisfied, whether they are trained, whatever we are giving training, they are just focusing. But still, they are in the bedside nurses. Whenever we are calling or we are deviating, we are telling any deviation in the hospital, they may be liable with the infection control nurse. But they are focusing on the bedside activity rather than focusing on the infection control. So the link nurse, as Madam said, as Tangam ma'am said, the link nurse has to be each shift, including one reliever. Then it has to be, the link nurse is supposed to be in the ICT, not in the bedside nurses. ICT, so we can put them on one type of link nurse. So, just example, if the link nurse are posted in B1, the next day she has to be there in MCCU, she has to be there in BMT, she has to be there in ICU. Just like that, we have to change the link nurse so we can empower the link nurse to observe each and every activities of the hospital infection control practices. An exclusive accreditation body for IPC. We have accreditation body in NABH or NECP or JCI. We have one standard like the infection control practice or hospital infection control HAP. But we have to create exclusive accreditation body for IPC. That means same like NABH, like that. So we have to have an infection prevention control itself. We have to create one accreditation in the future. It will be very much effective and it will give the more awareness to the people. After the COVID, most of the people are well aware about the infection control, but still if we create like this type of accreditation, really it will motivate the organization to accredit regarding infection prevention control practices very well. And recommend and adopt new technology based on evidence. So as the IPCN has to have a role, major. She is the one has to stand in the position to introduce a new technology and knowledge based on that evidence. She is the one, the base of the new technology regarding the infection control. Instead of waiting for the doctors to give the instructions, she is standing in the position to deliver the message, command the people, giving order to the other healthcare workers. So as ma'am said, should have the National Association for IPCN so that the body of knowledge and competency can improve. National accreditation plays a critical part of bringing in the sector together. This helps to fill in the gap that might be identified as the collective voice. This association helps us to improve the upcoming future and help to addressing the issue in national wise. Then community service. As IPCN in Apollo gave me the opportunity to deliver the talk to the young one. I strongly believe the younger ones, the children are the future of our country. So we have to educate the community starting from the children. I have the opportunity of 2 times to educate the children in the nearby government school. This all the IPCN, each IPCN has to take a role to communicate or educate the community people regarding the infection control protocol and policy, e-learning. IPCN, if you go and search the IPCN, one standardized module has to be there. So each IPCN can go and search their doubt. Maybe if they have any new innovative idea, they can update everything. It has to be separate standardized module for IPCN curriculum. And research and publications. We are the part of research and publication. Most of the time, the lead will be the doctor. So we are here, the IPCN, the future IPCN has to be the researcher and publicator. C is the one, C or he. The IPCN has to have the how to deliver the publish more infection control nursing related paper in the society. Taking the active and lead role in sanitation practice, risk identification and management, not only in the hospital, it also to be in the to the community also. Courageous, as ma'am said, courageous. I would like to say, if in case antimicrobial stewardship program, we are escalating, we are de-escalating the antibiotic who are deviating the policy, but the future IPCN has to stand in the position to stop the antibiotic, tell the doctor to stop. That time it's we have to write the new antibiotic as per policy. We are not supposed to wait for the ID doctor to give the prescription. It will take 2 days. That may be compromising the patient safety. And confident and speaking up. Most of the time, the IPCNs in the hesitance to talk to the consultant, senior, maybe the management, to the surgeon, if there is any deviation in the protocol. We have all the rights. In that case, I'm really blessed because Apollo organization given me the opportunity as well as the empowerment to confident in talking, confident to deliver my speech, deliver my thought to the senior level people. They will listen what we say. And training all professional as we do now, not only the hospital, we have to go ahead with the near to the school, maybe our college, maybe general public, pediatric, clinic, home care. We have to go to the, it's like a mandatory for the each IPCN to deliver the talk in the talk to the community. And reading latest development in the domain. To practice all those things, we have to have a knowledge, up-to-date knowledge. So every time, every day, the new message, if it comes to the communities, comes to the society, even if the worldwide or India, whatever it may be, the first message to deliver to the organization, to the hospital, to the community by the IPCN. So in this position, I would like to thank our Captain Dr. Usha Banerjee. She is the one created ICNC, Infection Prevention Control Nurse Council. So it's the motto of Infection Prevention Control Nursing Council is to empower our nurses into helping each other in ensuring the standard infection control practice across Apollo to make infection control as a center of excellence and sustain the same. So the aim of this to standardize the practice across, to talk the language of infection control, aim for team spirit and for Apollo. So we have every month new topic. It will be delivered from the group level from Captain Dr. Usha Banerjee. We have to educate each and everyone, even what protocol we have to follow, what is the policy, SOP, any new channels, we will receive the message from our Captain Dr. Usha Banerjee, our group nursing director from her itself. So I would like to end up my section. As APJ Abdul Kalam sir said, we cannot change the future, but still we cannot change the future, but we can change our habit. Surely our habit can change the future. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, once again, given me the opportunity. Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening to everybody. I don't know whether I am not finding her. She's here, but not on the screen. This is
Ajita,
yeah.
one second. Sorry.
Oh,
I think I was speaking, but I was muted. I'm so sorry about that, So I was telling thanks to Raji and saying that, she gave some ideas about creating the Association for Infection Prevention and Control Nurses, coming up with research and publications. Needs a lot of commitment to get into that, and also finding evidence-based practices. I was saying that before I call upon Ms. Ajita to give us the end note, I just want to leave a thought with all of you, because this is a question that I ask in every single batch of infection prevention control nurses, that how do you give catheter care to your patients? So the answer is never the standard. We have our own challenges, but still we are not asserting ourselves to find out what would be the best method of, obviously antiseptic is out of question. You don't need to use any antiseptic to give catheter care. So what would be the best way to do? So I would leave it with all of you, whoever is interested, to join with the Signia Healthcare and me to find a way that what is the best method of giving catheter care. Please feel free to get in touch with me and we will take this separately. So now moving on to the next end note from Ms. Ajita. Thank you so much, Ajita, for being here. One big component of any infection prevention control program is data. I mean, a lot of quality indicators, numbers, compliances, all that thing is there, a lot of data. We do collect a lot of data. Most of our hospitals are NABH accredited, but I still feel that we are not able to prevent infections or prevent harm in patients. So where do we fail? I mean, that's what, Ajita is going to think along with us. Thank you very much for being here. Over to you, Ajita. You are always expected to be as candid as possible. So there is nothing different we are expecting. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanga ma'am. It was great part of these sessions, listening to all of you for past 3 hours. And it's very clear that everybody has concerns. It's very clear that some ideas are there. And we need to put all our efforts together to go forward. Well, to talk about why do quality data fail to prevent patient harm? Well, where is the data? If I ask you, where is the data? Data which is sensible, which is comprehensive, which is understandable by people and reliable. Data, where is it? It is not there, by the way. We in our country, are specialists in cooking up stuff. The underlying problem is that there was a quality movement in the country, people claim, but there was no quality movement in the country. There was an accreditation movement. Okay, so accreditation, is it equivalent to quality? I beg to disagree. Accreditation is quite prescriptive. It is based on standards agreed, but it is designed in such a way that, if you satisfy the assessors, you will get accredited. And enough standardized methodology is not there. So there is, of course, this quality in our country is only 15-year-old, 15, 17 to be precise, because the first accreditation happened in Apollo, Delhi in 2005. And that was the first accreditation ever to happen in our country. And well, NABH was just writing its first edition standards at that time. And it was published in the next year. I am talking about NABH. And first NABH accreditation happened in 2007. A lot of hospitals did have, 5, 6 of them. So also JCI. So initially what happened is before that, we have hardly heard about any of these issues. Patient safety was nobody's issue, and data forget. We have hardly heard any data in our country. And almost 17 years down the line, do we hear about data now? Can you download data from anywhere, or can you quote any hospitals in our country? No. So somewhere something has gone wrong. There is a huge accreditation movement. And why did that movement happen? That movement happened only because Ganisar and company had struggled hard to get, the insurance company's regulatory authority to, publish a notice that if you don't have any form of NABH accreditation, they will not get empaneled with the insurance. Okay, so that was the push factor. Was it necessary? Yes, it was, because people were scared of accreditation. Why people were scared of accreditation? Because they knew the cost Apollo Delhi had to incur for getting JCI. That was the reason. Okay, it was huge, mind you. How I know this? That is because the accreditation coordinator from there had joined us in Mohali, in just less than 2 years' time. So, nobody had any idea about accreditation. We wanted JCI, and yeah, we got, we had JCI standards, of course, in our hand, and he had given us the folder. And even now, when I go for NABH assessments, lot of forms, lot of protocols are, prototypes of Apollo Delhi. So this is what, happened in relation to accreditation in our country. Quality is quite opposite of that. Quality has a purpose of saving lives. Now, if, the NABH people won't agree with me when I say that the accreditation doesn't have that purpose. Yes, it has the purpose. But however, it is like, you studying in the schools. Why do you study? Why do students study? Because you want to pass the exam. It is not because you want to acquire knowledge for life, or you want to learn the tactics of life so that you are a successful human being, or you are a sensible, ethical human being. No, that is not the purpose of education now, right? The education teaches you all wrong things in today's context. It trains you to tell lies, and so you don't find it abnormal. So when you show cooked up data, or tabletop exercises instead of quality assurance projects, nobody feels anything abnormal about it. If we share the same thing to our Western counterparts, they will be so surprised that these are the tactics we do in getting accreditation. So to say that anything what you do, if you don't do it in letter and spirit, and if we copy paste and just go on tick marking without ensuring it, that is utter white lie, right? So if you go on doing that, how on earth patient safety will be there? So the basic of quality is stop telling lies, stop doing lies. But that unfortunately does not happen. So based on our data, sensible corrective and preventive actions we are not able to do. And I don't know how many managements are convinced to say everybody will say, but not really so. We were talking about having infection control linked nurses everywhere, right? In each unit. We don't have enough nurses in the unit. Now, forget about linked nurses. How do you spare them? Just having a linked nurse, somebody you give a label will not work. Linked nurses should be given a fixed shift. Let them do patient work in the morning, one shift, 6 hours, and rest of the time should be given to them so that they can do infection control work. Now, if you don't spare them, how will they do infection control work? So if we demand that they will take 5-6 patients, and then in addition to that, they'll do infection control work, that is expecting too much out of them. So we are not realistic when we expect something from somebody. This is a problem with everybody, from the management, from the nursing administration to everyone. This is a problem. Now, the second issue, what I find is, yeah, we don't have sensible, reliable data. Hence, we can't really arrive at any conclusions. Now, the second issue, what it is stemming out of it is a cultural issue in our country. One is that we don't have much qualms in telling lies. That's a problem. And very poor threshold to failures. This is another problem which I find. Very poor threshold by the management to failures. I mean, they want to hear 100% compliance and zero medication errors or zero SSIs or infection control or healthcare acquired infections. So this poor threshold to failure by the management forces people to hide things. That is totally, absolutely against quality. Quality starts with, confronting the truth, right? But that just doesn't happen. So our Indianized Hippocratic mindset, making up everything is okay. Now, what message are we giving to our healthcare workers? I do remember, couple of years back, every hospital wherever I worked, I must say this as head of the Department of Nursing. If I report, say, nudistic injuries, if it is above 10, the corporate people definitely will come to me. But you have so many nudistic errors and nudistics in your hospital. So I look at their face and tell, because I talk truth, I report truth. But they don't have tolerance for that. I do remember an instance where a mail, that was height of it. A mail was sent by the head of infection control to a junior microbiologist not to report infections, central line infections. Keep it at our benchmark. After that, you don't report. Obviously, if the microbiologist doesn't report, you will not even come to know about it. So where is the integrity? So the problem is our mindset. So why quality data fail to prevent patient harm is because we do not have integrity, and people don't, they don't find anything abnormal about it. And two, when I say there is an integrity issue, nobody is willing to accept it. So if we fudge things, patient safety is not going to happen. Patient will be safe in our hands if we are true to ourselves. This is same like road safety. We have mechanisms in, but why do we follow road safety rules? Because one, we are scared of that police wala standing over there. Otherwise, now there are a lot of cameras across the state, at least in Kerala. And if you cross the speed limit, you will get penalized. It is an automatic process. It will come into your account. You go to the website, put your vehicle number and your penalty will be visible there, and a registered post comes to your home address. This does happen. It happens to me too. So you are little, scared of it. So what do we do? When you can see the camera from far, you will slow down. And after the camera, you will again go the same thing. Okay, so this is what happens in every facet of our life. So it's part of our life, I guess. Then patient safety cannot be guaranteed in these kind of places. So, what Joint Commission talks about, making your organization highly reliable. They have a campaign around it, high reliability organizations, which means that you go to a hospital and you are rest assured that preventable harm will not happen from that hospital. I wonder when we will have that you can confidently go to a hospital where you can be rest assured that, preventable errors do not harm your life. And that is what is our objective, right? So what is the purpose of data collection? Now let's come back to data. What is the purpose of data collection? To improve quality and patient safety, right? And data collection in such a way that it will lead to system improvement. But the way we collect data, it is only to satisfy the assessors, nothing beyond it. So in letter and spirit, our committees do not function. You talk goody things. So I'm telling the truth, what I had been coming across for past 16, 17 years. And before that, of course, was absolute blank. There was no data. But however, if I look back, the time when I worked in armed forces, life was not so complicated, by the way. we had how many antibiotics? 5, 6, that's all. Ampicillin, cloxacillin, gentamicin, that was the end of the story. And yes, for mild things, doxycycline. And of course, ATT was there, streptomycin and the kind. That was the end of antibiotics. And then started coming up one by one. So we did not have much of healthcare associated infection in those days, to tell you the truth. Of course, I have given a lot of penicillins of all kind. Hundreds of penicillin injections in a day, because we used to get injection room postings. But those injections, penicillin, 5 lakh unit in one vial, used to save patients those days. But now we have very costly antibiotics, but it doesn't seem to save many people, because if you get MDRO, you're not going to be saved by that. So, life was less confusing those days and less complicated those days. Yes, well, I guess it was more reliable too those days, because we never had to prove ourselves to anybody, to any accreditation people who are coming that, hey, this is our data. So quality of data, unless being ensured, like fidelity, is it really true? What do you call reliable? Whether there is integrity in your quality data. As opposite to that, what data we collect in most of the places. I forget about few Apollos and few organizations where you have at least a quality system in place. There is somebody to ask you if something is wrong, or a abnormal pattern is seen. Some activity has to be done. That is very few corporate so-called hospitals. Ordinary Indians cannot afford to go there. I've been to hospitals where patients don't pay anything. It is government schemes. And government scheme actually pay you not even half of what you incur on treating them. What about quality there? So when we don't, collate data, or the data collection itself is very primitive, not collated and analyzed. Now quality of data, forget it. Now what do you do with that data? Wherever I go for accreditation visits, a lot of data is lying in the file. It is papers. For years together, it's lying there. For example, all IPCNs take, environmental, rounds, right? So you go for rounds everywhere across the hospital, especially to high-risk areas. What do you do there? You go and policing there. This is not right. Why is it like this? Why is it like that? Why label is not there? So instead of that, use a checklist, collate the data, and say every month, this is your compliance to our protocols in each unit, so that there is something to refer to. So that there will be some sense of competition if you put all together, and who has less complaints and who has more complaints. It is true that data speaks for itself, correct? If it is collected appropriately, you don't have to shout at anyone. Data will speak for itself. I had a serious problem of patient falls in many hospitals. Okay, not only in the hospital where I'm now, but every place. But the moment you start writing it on your bulletin board, department-wise, what is your patient fall, it starts coming down. Why? Because it's not that people are not sincere or want to dodge the work. Not so. So data will speak for itself, because everybody knows this is truth, because it is been reported and discussed every day. So there is no fudging of data there. If it is there, it is reported. And only that, no shouting, no talking to people, no punishing. So this will work. What will work is that. So the data need to be collated, analyzed, and the conclusions need to be told to the frontline workers so that they can act on it. But all these things are not done. We collect a lot of data, yes. So what do you do with that? Nothing. So if at all it is analyzed, it is incomplete. You can't comprehend anything out of it. So what we need to do is, we need to improve our competency of dealing with the data, so that it can be converted into understandable information by the ground staff, be it doctors, be it nurses, anybody. Another issue is data is used as a disciplinary tool. Oh, you have so much of nudistic injury. Okay, so let us see. People get into that disciplinary mode. Quality and disciplinary mode, it doesn't exactly go hand in hand. What we need to understand in quality is, despite our best intentions, things can go wrong. many a times we need to be truthful to each other to find out what went wrong, not who did the wrong. So we have to change our focus from who did it to what were the circumstances under which something happened. So that it is not punishment for those people. So I many a times feel that what we need to focus on is not, the data or something. What we need to focus on learning, is learning human psychology. Why do I say that? Whatever we do, unless we are able to influence others' behavior, it's going to be of no use. So what are we trying to do? By all our efforts, activities, the ultimate purpose is, outcome is patient safety, but the ultimate purpose for us is to influence someone's behavior in a positive way, be it hand hygiene, be it catheter care, anything. Because what people do when nobody watches is what matters for a patient. But if they are not convinced enough, how will they do? If one step is not done, if nothing happens, they may repeat it many a times and nothing happens, and that becomes a habit. Instead of doing it sincerely, if that becomes a habit, then only, the patient safety will be the outcome. Otherwise, what we see today is what is going to happen. That data will fail miserably to prevent patient harm. So I also find there's a lot of knowledge deficit or competency deficit or even lack of concept of quality, infection control among the people who are supposed to lead it. There is generally what is accepted that a microbiologist can lead infection control. I beg to disagree with that. In their microbiology, means the medical college where I was working, we had PG microbiology. I had seen their syllabus only with the interest of this. Are they learning anything about infection control? There is absolutely nothing about infection control in, in their PG course. So all those microbiologists whom you see who head the infection control departments have toiled it out, sweat it out to learn what is infection control. So it doesn't happen automatically. They have to learn it from somewhere, from somebody, from by doing some course or some way. But just because you're a microbiologist or you are an intensivist, you will not know everything about infection control. So what happens is when there is competency deficit, you fail to tackle with the data because you are not able to collect it appropriately and analyze it and make it into comprehensible language as to what to recommend preventive actions. From there onwards, there is a lot of dealing with people, right? When you work in infection control in quality, you have to deal with people who always you look at them as, those who faltered. I do remember lining up many a times the people who took care of a patient who had a central line infection. And the posturing of those who discovered it. These all are negativism in relation to quality. So that is why I said, accreditation drive miserably failed. I have no qualms in admitting that as a person who worked for getting accreditations in hospital all through my 15, 16 years of life in private sector hospitals, as well as for past 12 years or so doing NABH assessments, both as an assessor and principal assessor and all that. Because your focus is so very different. The truckload of data they show, but all are false data. In most of the times, it's so very disturbing to see that, hey, we need something that is all prepared in last 2 weeks. Where does that lead to quality or saving people? It is not. But yes, this is one side of it. But yeah, you do find people who do it with all earnestness and sincerity. You do find people, but they are very less. And they are silenced probably, even in these hospitals. Because what the management wants is only accreditation stamp so that their insurance business can go on. It is as simple as that. Because NABH wants, the air control systems in the operating room, so they are busy in getting it. Not because you want to save your patient from SSI. I have been to hospitals where heart surgery, open heart surgery is done in systems where there is no positive pressure. I have even fought with surgeons. I mean, do you have a heart? I asked a heart surgeon. She was apt. How dare you ask was his look. But how can you do a open heart surgery in an operating room where air pressure is not maintained? I mean, the door is not even sealed. I have seen not one hospital, many hospitals. Even joint surgeries happen over there, joint replacement. So what I'm saying is, unless and until our doctors stand by their principles, I mean, how on earth healthcare can happen? And if you see them in private, they all will start crying. It is like this, how many times I have told management and this and that. So such attitudes will not bring in quality and will not save patients from preventable harm. So for knowledge deficit and a lot of problem with attitude. Yes, let's come to leadership issues. Now, I think the mother of all issues is leadership issue. Even in our country, that is the issue, right? So it is not only in healthcare or in infection control, everywhere. Be it education, be it governance, be it anything. There is a lot of leadership issues in our country where, those who lead lacks a lot of things. I mean, lesser said, the better. Even in the hospital, the same. But yes, there is another side to it. That of late, past maybe 3-4 years, at least I can tell you about the private sector hospitals, except the ones who have corporate and, money support, rest of them are all struggling for existence. I know a lot of hospitals which is about to shut down. I know a lot of hospitals which have already shut down because they do not use the principle of, survival. So if hospital is shutting down, what quality? What saving patients? So we have to face reality. So I am saying all this not to paint a very, very grim picture of healthcare, not really so. But turning our face to reality is not going to do any good. We do understand, see, all these things had been existing. It is not that it started yesterday, or I noticed it, a couple of years back. No, this all had been existing. Probably the good thing is that, it is coming to our notice. That's a very good thing, because to correct anything or to change anything, realization is the first step. Acceptance is the next step. Realizing it, yeah, then there is shock denial. So I think everybody is going through that phase. There is denial. It doesn't exist. So in our hospital, there is no infection. We never had a VAP reported. Hardly I have seen any VAP being reported in the hospitals. Central line infection, yeah, maybe one in 6 months. So leadership issues is a major thing, and arising out of leadership issue is this designing of quality systems. So designing of quality systems, as how do you report things, how do you investigate about it, how do you put things in place, and all these are reporting is for the management to take up responsibility for changing the systems and processes on ground. So that realization has to come. So it is very important to realize what quality means and what in healthcare, what does it mean? What is the intention of infection control? So this has to percolate down from the top to everybody. But I don't think it is only the problem of the ground level workers. It's not. And and there is insufficient attention given to real issues. So all these are the problems. So I'm sure why the data failed to prevent patient harm. These are the reasons. So you have to call a spade, and we have to understand it and then work around it as to what to do. Blame game doesn't help. It absolutely doesn't help. So maybe what can we do? Few of the suggestions what I have is do networking. It is not, we are not the only ones who are facing problem in the world. Absolutely not. The best of best hospitals in the world has hand hygiene compliance around 70 to 80%. That is truth. But we say it is 90%, it is 100% in some of our hospitals. So stop letting dice, networking, and if one person has the, guts to say the truth, many more people will follow. I'm sure about it. So who will bell the cat is maybe the question. And share the knowledge. And if you are convinced about something, you can, convince another person. But if you're doubtful about things, then obviously you cannot convince your management, you cannot convince your staff. So this is for the infection control nurses and anybody who works in infection control. So we have to have the conviction of doing some things. It is not just short, solutions or stopgap arrangements. It is not so. And practice something which is evidence-based. There is a lot of confusion in evidence-based also. Yes, we have to bank on somewhere, right? And act like a sector. You can't fight a battle alone and find solutions. Absolutely not. You will not be able to do that. So healthcare has to come together. All concerned people have to come together, share the learning, find courage from each other. A lot of support is psychological support I'm talking about is required. Sometime a pat on the back is required and not only bashings from the top. Not. Another important thing is stop looking for magic bullets. There is no magic bullet. Short stop gaps, what can I do to prevent, say, collapsing? A lot of things you can do, right? So, but see that it is implemented, see that it is audited and your compliance is correct. Very difficult to do that part. So build capacity for, designing proper quality department in the hospital, in all, sense and purpose. So this is probably the solution which I can suggest besides whatever I have talked. And the last one, what I have is make patients and community as partners. Share. I mean, we have to have guts to share this with patients. And those who have suffered damage will join hands with you to prevent further damage to others. I'm sure about it because all patients whom we talk, most of them will talk about this, that we have suffered the damage. We want, we want change in such a way that nobody else is harmed. So there, at least when they face the hard realities and losses, they come down to Mother Earth, that we don't want others to suffer. So your best partners in infection control is going to be the community, the patients. So including them is another solution for this because we need, many arms, not just one. And we need many brains because what works today doesn't work tomorrow for sure. So there is no universal solutions except maybe from hand washing. And so organizations need to be focused, need to develop clear goals. They have to manage their people and resources effectively, foster a sense of morality, which means that what I mean is not the usual sense, but follow ethics and don't breach integrity, these things. And develop their information and intelligence systems. So anybody fudging the data, management should take it seriously. No fudging data. So they have to, there has to be leadership drive for this and ensure that they have the capacity to engage in problem solving. So there is no problem which doesn't have solution if we sit and think about it and put your brains together. Include those ones who are adversely affected too. So that, they'll bring us back to the track. So that was all my thoughts about, about our data. And, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ajita. I could expect you to be as candid as possible. And you always had been so. I think whatever you said is very true. And I totally agree with all of them. But yes, I would shout out to all the people who are here. You are here because you care for patients. So it is very important to accept that Ajita told what is the reality. Accept it and then have the courage to stand up. I mean, to IPCNs, I can only say that don't buckle under anyone's direction that, I will fudge the data. It takes a lot of courage. And I go back to a little advice that was given by Dr. Narottam Puri from Fortis many, many years ago. So this was in one of the infection control week only. So I was complaining to him I said, sir, why? The focus is not on quality and safety. Why do we have to fight so much? After all, that is what is required to be done. So he said, Tankam, there's nothing new in that. But remember, be a woodpecker. Continue to peck. Someday it will make a hole in the tree. So don't worry. It's like a drop of water falling on a stone. When it falls for enough amount of time, there will be a dent on the stone also. So I think we need to buckle ourselves and speak up and have the courage not to fight the data, use the data for the benefit of the healthcare providers as well as patients. Somewhere we are not able to connect that story. Any data comes, you can use it for the benefit of the healthcare provider also. So that knowledge is required, that how do I analyze and present the data for the benefit of the patients. And one thing that I learned in my long career is that whenever you argue for patient safety to someone, at least in my personal life, nobody could push me back. Nobody could say, why are you so much worried about the patient? They will not, because they know it is not the right thing to say. So you can continue to battle. It is not going to be an overnight win. So there are many things that needs to be done so that, even having a webinar like this, many of you coming here, is a pleasant change. 2001, when I joined Fortis, when I said I need an ICN, question was, why do you have so many nurses? Now you want to create one IPCN also. So that is in 2001. Today, at least we have established IPCN rules. And it's very interesting. 1:100 and suddenly it became 1:250. Again, the question is that, back to leadership. Why are they changing the norms when they know that, 1:100 also could be falling less if you really want to have a good infection prevention control practices. So again, I think a lot of changes required from top down and not very easy. Ajita has exposed all the things that we need to look at. So
not
finally,
all, not all.
I know most of it, but I think finally, this one question that I need to ask myself, what can I do in my circle of influence? And that is the most important question each one of you should answer right now. Where I am working, where my influence is there, am I doing enough? Am I doing it honestly? Am I able to speak up? It doesn't matter. See, always I say it is important to speak up and courageously say that I think this is the problem. I'm sorry to say that the team is not able to see it. But make the statement. Make it again, make it again. Someday somebody is going to listen for sure. I mean, that is what I would request, because we cannot change the world. Neither can we boil the ocean in one day. It will be slow boiling of, small kettles of water, and then finally maybe it will become a movement. So having more such things is very important, and also networking to find out what is the best practice. I don't see that much happening. No IPCNs calling, and usually the questions come when the assessment is going on. Suddenly in the group, there'll be a question, please tell me what to do this, because there is an assessor asking that question. I think that's not the way that IPCN should be brought up. IPCN should be always curious, asking each other, networking to find out what is the best practice that we can come up with. I have a problem with my patients. So we are just a few minutes overshot from 6 p.m. I would, thank all the speakers. I think Dr. Sharmila and Dr. Anita Sharma has taken leave. They have to go elsewhere. And before I call upon our friends Indrani and Preeta to close the session, I'm going to especially thank Ajita for that very candid conversation. And you never fail me to be as candid. I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't need to tell you. You can only be candid. And special thanks to our young IPCNs, and very happy that you came and you spoke your mind. And I'm very proud of you because you're my students. I'm very happy to present you to the, to the world. Very happy, and more IPCNs should hold the candle and stand up for patient safety. Just stand up wherever you are, just speak for them. Don't think whether I'll get result or not. As long as you are respectful, and very important to have the data. That's what Ajita was trying to tell. Be smart enough to use the correct data, not the fudge data. Correct data and say, this is the real picture. Let's look at the real picture. Can we change? So in US, what happened was that all this movement came because they defined the never events. So they actually went after the outcome and said the hospitals, if you have this 13, I think 13 events have become 17. If you have any of these events, the insurance companies will not pay you any money post that complication. So if you have a fall and patient had, had a very adverse event, had surgery and all that treatment, the insurance will not pay, neither the patient will pay. The hospital has to bear. So what happened? Because of that, a lot of other things started happening. The California state went ahead and mandated the nurse-patient ratio to ensure the insurance medical aid or whatever they call it, that money will keep coming to the hospital. So maybe in our country also such movement will be required. It comes slow. Maybe we are behind 15, 20 years, but it is going to come. It is going to come, and the government has got a commitment to WHO to work on medication safety and preventing infection. So now they are also waking up. And just before I call upon Indra, I just want to show you one screen just for all of you to learn. Sorry, this is not the one. Just give me a minute, 1 second. Okay. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah, this page is something all of you should go and look at. You can see here, it is called www.haiindia.com. So this is a government body where you can actually put up your, data. Now, very important to have Indian data. And when you go down here, you can actually see who are all the network hospitals which are available. List of network centers. Many aims are already there. From the private sector, I only saw few, but I thought I can use this forum to inform everyone. www.haiindia.org. Please go and look there. And whatever it is, we can start empowering our country to come up with our own data, benchmarking. A lot of things will start happening, because we cannot copy paste everything from West, because their environment and our environment is very different. So we need our own data. So thank you so much, Ajita, for that end note, extensive, very useful, very candid. Thank you very much. Let me call upon Indrani and Preetha to close the session. And thank you, Nurse India, Indrani and Preetha, for supporting this session for Cigna Healthcare. Thank you very much. And thank you all the audience who are here. So over to you, Indrani, to close this session. You're muted.
It always happens like that once at least in every webinar.
Yeah,
but thank you.
Always happens with me.
Thank you very much, Thankam, for facilitating such an important conversation. And I think, this is what Cigna and Thankam are all about. How do we constantly push the boundary and keep facilitating the important discussions? And at Nurse India, we are so proud and so privileged to be collaborating with Cigna and Thankam. We won't spend, I know it's at the end of a very, I'm amazed that even at the end of a 3-hour, intense session, back to back, we still have most of the people who registered. And I wish we, each of us could have actually come in with a candle, and, I would have actually requested everyone to, switch on their videos for a moment and, light up that candle. But in the absence of a candle, can we at least switch on our videos for a second, everybody, and, maybe just do a thumbs up for Thankam and Cigna and all the speakers.
Oh, that will be lovely. Yeah,
can we do that?
You. Can we? Can
we just switch on our videos, everybody, for a second?
Thumbs up like this. Thumbs up like this. Keep your face a little visible.
Can we do that?
Yeah, we can. We can. That's good. I'm doing it. Hello, we need more people. All of
whoever has liked the conversations may switch on their video and do a thumbs up. Now we'll have everybody switch on.
You're not having everybody switching, or I'm putting both my thumbs up.
We'll wait for the others to switch on for a second, just for a second.
I am trying.
Somebody's on a bike and switching it on. So nice of you, Gaurav, to do that.
Come on, all of you. We need more people on the screen with thumbs up. Hello, for being here for so long and be committed to, patient safety.
I think this is what community is all about. And really, this is what we would like to promote and create at Nurse India, where we really bring in all stakeholders and facilitate the important conversations that are there. Just a brief word about Nurse India, and maybe we can share a short deck with all of you over an email. We won't take up your time today here, but we really want to create this platform where every stakeholder, hospitals, nursing community, trainers, educators, nursing colleges, everybody comes on to a platform that is enabled by technology and that really connects the whole community together. So you have these, then the ideas just erupt like this, like a volcano. So we want to be that tech partner, what Thankam is doing in her own capacity and what Ajita and the other speakers have done in their own capacities. We'd just like to maybe amplify that movement by providing that tech support and that platform. And we need more and more nursing professionals join us. If you're a student, if you're a staff nurse, if you're a team leader, if you are a nurse recruiter, if you are a nurse educator, if you are a nursing college professor, if you are a healthcare consultant, everybody, we have space for everybody. Let's join this community and let's see where we can take this forward, because our mission is to really make nursing in India a profession of choice. Indian nurses go everywhere globally and they're so respected. But in India, I think there is a way still to go before nursing becomes a preferred, profession of choice. And that is what we can all do and all help to do. So that's really from all of us. Thank you very much for joining and for spending an entire Saturday afternoon. I'm sure, this just gives Thankam and all of us a lot more motivation and energy to bring on more important conversations here. Pritha, any last words?
No, I think you've said it, Indrani. It was quite sort of, for me, very insightful to be part of this. So, thanks everybody for joining in. And yeah, like Indrani said, I think, the community deserves a voice, and, hopefully we can help to provide that. So look forward to everyone's support with that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Indrani. Thank you, Preeta, for joining us for this session. And thanks to all my speakers and my young IPCNs. Feel free to be in touch with all of us. We do have a group of certified IPCNs with us, or I do have a learners group, senior learners group. Feel free to join. Let me know, drop a message. We would love to help you to have a voice, create platforms for you to discuss like this. We should do that more often. And it is just that you need to care enough. If you care enough, we care more. Okay. With that, I'm going to stop the recording, and thank you everyone, and those who are going to watch this recording in future also. I hope that you will decide to do something different because you were here today. So I'm